Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free right now. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Everybody, and welcome back to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Yay indeed, Jimmie. Yay indeed. My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmie Whisman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us today on a Final Four episode of Crime in Sports. Down to the Final Four. Yeah. And we had to do it. You know, I wasn't planning on it, but it had to be a wrestling episode. We had to get one more wrestling episode in there. We couldn't leave it with Jeff Hardy, honestly.
Who the hell are we going to leave it with?
You'll see. It's great. You'll see in a second. It's wonderful. And there's not. You'll listen and go, there's not as much crime as there was with Hector Macho Camacho last week. Nope, there isn't. But holy fuck, is this hilarious? So I don't really care. We don't care, basically.
This is the legacy.
We're having fun, and this is going to be a wild story of one of the craziest wrestlers of all time, and it's awesome shit. Quickly, before we get started, first of all, tickets right now on sale for the 2023 live show, Small Town Murder Tour, and they are going quick. From what I understand, St. Louis selling very fast, so get in there.
Holy shit.
Yeah, get in there and get your St. Louis's quick.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Last time that we played a small place in St. Louis, it sold out in like a day, so we've got a bigger place, and apparently they're coming. So I know it's a good place to drive to from a lot of different places, so that's part of it.
I mean, in the country, it's fucking Mad Center, but
but I mean, there's a lot of places around there.
There's a lot of shit around it,
a lot of decent-sized cities that are within driving range of St. Louis, I think. So good for you guys. Thank you so much for doing that. Get tickets to all of them. I know it's only like half the tour is on sale. The second, I don't know what the cutoff date
James.
is. No, that's the thing. We didn't do this, by the way. This is Live Nation does the tour. They set this up, and they said that's what we're doing, and we were like, "Are we? We didn't know this till So that's what the tour is.
That's what's happening.
At the beginning of we were told early 2023. The rest of the dates will go on sale. Okay. We would prefer them being on sale right now, but that's not, like I said, not something we had a say in at this point. At this point, it was kind of done.
Someone has to press a button somewhere, and they got to wake that guy up in a few months.
He's napping. He's hibernating. That's the problem. He has a
big moss plug.
He has every year he has a big turkey dinner on Thanksgiving, and then he hibernates for about 2 months. So you can't
sticks and moss, and
you can't get a hold of him.
Turkey in there.
Can't get a hold of him. He's got leftovers and stuffing, and there's no way to do anything.
He's going to absorb everything like Kim Jong-un.
Yes. Patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all the bonus stuff, and after next month, it's where you get Crime and Sports, because that'll be that. And it will continue. We've been asked repeatedly, and we've said repeatedly, it will continue. We'll still get new bonus episodes every other week like you always do. One Crime and Sports, one Small Town Murder. Always going to get that. And that's what you get, $5 or above. Right. You're going to get new episodes. Controversy on the Ben Roethlisberger one, which, again, was hilarious to us because we're like, what? Why him? We've told plenty of stories that were like, okay,
your hero?
Here's your allegations and here's the results, and make your own judgments. And everyone goes, oh yeah, thanks for telling us the story. And they were like, how dare you besmirch the name of Ben Roethlisberger from the rooftops.
Look round one.
Holy crap, relax, everybody.
He'll still get in the fucking Hall of Fame.
Read
and we'll
the
be
court
able
docs.
to debate this disgusting shit that day, too. How about that?
And I will say, I don't pay people that I've done nothing wrong to, usually. We all jumped on Michael Jackson when he started cutting checks. You can't stop and go, well, not Ben Roethlisberger. It's the same thing. Same thing with R. Kelly. Same thing with all these. Once you start cutting checks, you're pretty much up to get kicked at that point.
Yeah.
So
and just because Deshaun Watson isn't going to jail doesn't make him not a creep.
There you go. So this week, though, for the 2 bonus episodes you're going to get for Patreon, for Crime and Sports, we're going to do some fun stuff. I got a lot of good reaction from Reggie Harding and his ABA stories with him with the gun at night. So let's tell some crazy stories from a defunct basketball league from the 60s and 70s. There's some crazy stories that go on, and we're going to hear about some just nutty guys. They're so much fun, basketball players. So ABA stories, fun shit. For Small Town Murder, we're going to get back into a subject that we needed to circle back to. We're going to talk about people who blame video games for murders. We talked about music before.
We did,
and stuff like that. So now music and movies. Now we're going to talk about specifically video games, because that's a big chunk of it. All sorts of people blaming video games for murder. We'll get into all that. That's patreon.com/crime-and-sports. Thank you for doing that. And you'll get a shout out at the end of the show, of course.
Yes.
That said, let's get into this.
All right.
Here we go. We are talking about Scott Carl Steiner, better known as Scott Steiner. You may know him as Jim. Yeah, you know Scott Steiner, don't you, Jimmie? Yeah,
sure Steiner brothers.
Anybody who watched wrestling in the 90s definitely knows Scott Steiner, because he stood out in multiple ways, in different ways, too, from time to time. We'll get into all this, but
very similar look to the Anvil, right?
Nope, not at all.
No?
Anvil's a fire plug.
Nope, not at all.
Nope, not at all. No, completely different body types. Anvil's like a fire plug with no
he's
defined.
He's the bald guy with goatee, right?
Anvil
Scott
had
Steiner?
No, absolutely not. No. Scott Steiner had a big long mullet for most of the time. Then he had blonde, short hair, like that '90s bleach blonde hair.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. He was like he put
every
that
muscle
steel mesh on like Hulk
that was
Hogan's
ridiculous.
hair.
That was ridiculous when he put. We'll get into the mesh. The mesh was like, what the fuck? What did you put a screen on your head? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's the Scott Steiner.
Are you going jousting?
That's the only one.
You don't remember? Well, there's the '90s Scott, early '90s mullet Scott Steiner. Then there's the pre-chain on his head thing where he's just Big Poppa Pump, where he's got the blonde hair and the sunglasses, and he's saying all sorts of crazy sexual shit. And,
what?
Oh, dude, he is fucking insane.
I can't wait for the quotes.
We're going to talk about his promos, because his promos are normally wrestling promos are crazy, but they're in character promos that are meant to promote something.
Yeah.
He goes out there and just says shit that nobody, the wrestling company doesn't want him to say, because he's just saying crazy shit. He'll start just talking bad about other wrestlers that he's not in a feud with, he's not promoting a match. He's just talking shit about a guy he doesn't like backstage. And it's personal shit. It's not like, I'm going to take your belt. It's like, your girlfriend's ugly. I saw her at the fucking bar and she was blowing a guy like that. You're like, what are you talking about?
What are you doing for, Scott?
Yeah, and he's a lunatic. I mean, hair trigger temper lunatic as well. So Scott Steiner, born July 29th, 1962. Oh. He is from Bay City, Michigan. And he's got the Michigan accent, but with his voice being like that. So it's really like a strange combination. He has an older brother who you might know also, who is Robert, better known as Rick Steiner, which makes no sense to me. I never understood this. His name is Rob, so goes by Rick. Rob and Rick are the same thing. Do you think differently about a guy named Rob Steiner as opposed to Rick Steiner? To me, that's the same thing. Why would you bother changing it?
It goes back to the thing we said before. Anybody named Rick or Ricky is a bad man.
In the 80s, Rick was cool, too. In the 80s, Rick was a cool name.
Yeah.
In the mid-80s, that was like, there was a lot of people named Rick. Rick was cool.
Schroeder.
Well, like in the 50s, Dick was a cool name, and then all the Richards went to, no, Rick, not Dick, Rick.
Yeah.
That's how I figure it was. Ricky Schroeder, you had Rick Springfield, you had all the Ricks were out at that time.
Rick Rude. Ravishing Rick Rude,
Ravishing Rick, but that's actually his name. So I mean,
is it really?
Yeah, his name Roode, but still, his name is Rick Rude. How fucking cool is that? That's amazing. That's an amazing name. He was just meant to be a cool guy. His name is Rick Rude.
This baby's fucking cool.
Yeah, look at this baby, sexy. Look, he's got a mustache already. He's a sexy,
hot baby.
Hot baby. He's flexing. Look at him.
He's gonna be a Rick. You're gonna be Rick Rude, aren't we? We are.
Is he gyrating his hips? That's wild. This baby is horny already. So he's our guy here, Scott. I was going to say Rick again. Scott is an amateur wrestler. Scott and Rick are both amateur wrestlers, and that's what's so strange about Scott Steiner is later on when he's got this weird chain thing on his head and he's too bulky to really be very athletic in the ring and everything.
Right.
5 years earlier, this guy was a fucking like an amateur style wrestler who did like suplexes, throwing people,
athletic shit,
really athletic shit. The Steiners, as far as American wrestling goes, they really fit well in Japan. That's the style they do in Japan, is hard hitting, lots of action, and his their style really fits there. Back in the day more than here, their style was way ahead of its time here. Like, it really was. The Road Warriors did the thing where they mowed people over, but not with athletic shit like this.
Right.
Like Scott Steiner, his finishing move, the Frankensteiner, was a fucking Hurricane Rana. That's all it was. You know what that is?
No.
All right. Check this out.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare throw.
The late 90s, that was popping off everywhere with like Rey Mysterio.
All these moves at us.
Like Rey Mysterio Jr. and shit. It's a very common wrestling
it's like,
thing.
okay, off the ropes and stuff.
No. Like you stand still, right? You stand up. I jump up and put my cock in your face with my legs on your shoulders, right? I jump up and sit on your shoulders, except rather than like your child is behind you at the fair,
right.
It's in front of you like you're blowing a man.
Yeah,
so
we're 69, but I'm
not 60. No, I'm up. I'm sitting up. Like if you were carrying your kid on your shoulders, except the other way. Yeah,
but you need to flip over for you're
for 69. I'd have to flip.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're 69 to me, but I'm not 9 you.
There's no niner. It's just me.
You're just 6ing the shit out of me.
I'm just humping your face. That's it. While you stand. Okay. Now, as I'm humping your face, I flip backwards.
Yeah.
With your head between my legs.
Roll me.
And flip you over and flip, and then I end up sitting with my ass on your chest so I can hump your face that way while you're on the ground.
Oh.
That's a Hurricane Rana, okay? It's a whole flippy thing. Scott Steiner did that, except the guy would always end up hitting his head on the fucking on the mat, which isn't good. But him doing it was crazy because back then it was like, 175-pound Lucha Libre guys did that, not 260-pound fucking strong men. So it was
bulls.
Very ahead of his time, being a big guy that did shit like that. So, but when he's a kid here, he's a wrestler and amateur wrestler. It's funny that he was wrestling when he enters the University of Michigan as a wrestler. Him and his brother both go to University of Michigan, so they are legit, real wrestlers. He entered at 190 pounds, which I just can't picture 190-pound Scott Steiner. You can't.
Same size head, likely, though.
Huge head, big mullet, but 190, because he's like 100 pounds heavier later. That's 190's wild. So
and thick. Everything's so big.
He's a big motherfucker. He's just really big. His brother, Rick, like I said, also wrestled there. In 83, he was in fifth. He came in fifth place in the Big Ten, I guess, for wrestling that year. He was a runner-up in 84, a runner-up in 85, and in 86, he was an All-American.
Shit.
All-American wrestler and placed 6th in the nation that year.
My God.
So 6th best in the nation. That's pretty fucking good,
That'll get you into professional wrestling.
Well, if you have any charisma, that's the thing, because there's a lot of Olympic wrestlers. Most of the time, amateur wrestlers, it's almost like if they go too far in amateur wrestling, they have a hard time adjusting to professional wrestling because
it's reckless.
It's the opposite of what you're doing. In wrestling, amateur wrestling, everything is grab and pull, and whereas in pro wrestling, everything is go loose and go the other way. They pull, you go with them, not you pull them. So it's a different thing. It's a give, and you're not used to giving. Your automatic reaction is to snap back at them and It's not what you're doing in pro wrestling.
There's no scoreboard on WWE. So
that's the other thing.
Right.
And a lot of these guys have problems with, because they're amateur wrestlers, they're like, well, I wouldn't let that guy do that move to me. I'm a better wrestler. I do this. And they're like, yeah, but your character, it doesn't fucking matter. People sitting out there don't know.
Your character likes the ticket sales, so shut the fuck up and do it.
Yeah, people out in the audience don't understand the technicalities of amateur wrestling, and that you would never allow that move in real life. They don't know that, dumb shit. So a lot of times,
this whiskey goes great in my Mountain Dew.
That's it. I mean, you get a guy like Kurt Angle, but Kurt Angle had a hard time adjusting. He eventually adjusted, but I don't know, took a lot of drugs. Where then you get a guy like, this is a deep cut wrestling thing, you get a guy like a Brad Rangans, who was an Olympic wrestler and the most boring man in the ring I've ever fucking watched. He's like watching paint dry. Has no expression on his face. His moves are very amateur, ground-based, boring as fuck, and he never went anywhere because Vern Gagne liked to push him because he's a Olympic guy, but it doesn't matter. No one cares. You're boring. Anyway, so Scott, though, knowing the moves, it makes him dangerous, we'll say, put it that way. He said that when they were kids, they would watch TV and see some wrestling. Rick and Scott, Detroit has a very rich wrestling background with the Sheik and the original Sheik and all that. Yeah. So big time wrestling up there. They have that. So they saw all that kind of shit. And Steiner said, quote, this is Scott, after watching it for 2-3 months and not knowing anything about professional wrestling, I said to my brother, we can beat those guys. And that's where it started.
My brother's like, all right, let's go. Yeah. Really? That's what it was?
They didn't know it was fake. So they were like, we could kick those guys' asses. They don't know. Look at that. Look at what he just let that guy do. We would never let that guy do that. We'd move around like that. That's how a lot of them think. This is crazy. I kicked that guy's ass.
He doesn't know about ticket sales yet.
They don't know anything about that. So he said, Scott will say later on, I actually appreciated the boos more than I enjoyed the cheers. That's like a Camacho thing. I tell my girlfriend to boo when we fuck because she knows it turns me on.
Because they get harder.
That's hilarious. It was a lot more fun, and it just fit my personality. It was a lot easier for me to piss people off.
Okay.
So, being a heel is, more fun. Every wrestler says that. Yeah. Nobody wants to go around and be a good guy. That's boring. Being a heel's fun.
I mean, yeah. I guess there's longevity in it because you get paid better, I imagine. Yeah.
It depends on who you are. I mean, the thing with you sell more merchandise, which is a big deal, usually as a good guy, obviously.
Who'd you rather be, The Rock or Ric Flair?
Well, if Ric Flair saved his money, you'd say, who knows? It could go either way. But Ric Flair is a maniac, so definitely The Rock. Definitely The Rock when it comes to that kind of shit. Yeah. Wrestling, anyway. But, he was a heel, too, for a while, and he went in and out of that. So, just once your movie starts, it's hard to be a heel anymore.
Okay.
The kids are like, oh, it's the guy from The Mummy. It's difficult to be. Boo this man. No, he's a superhero. I can't boo him. You can't. You're done.
He's friends with Vin Diesel. I love all those movies too.
I can't tell them apart, but he's friends with them. His little brother Vin Diesel was in that other movie. So Rick goes pro first. Rick's the older, makes sense. Scott was still in school. Rick placed second, by the way, at the Big Ten Championships in '83 for the Wolverines, and established the fastest pin record in the school's history at 15 seconds. Rick Steiner. Wow. Yeah. So these guys are pretty fucking badass, honestly. His brother, Rick, ends up getting into wrestling through George the Animal Steele. Who is a Detroit guy. He's from Detroit, and his whole career, after he was wrestling and before it and everything else, he was a school teacher as well and a football coach.
What?
Yeah. So
you're going to come into the class and Mr. Steele is George the Animal?
That's how different wrestling was up until the 80s when it was cable and national. Before that, he'd go wrestle in New York for 3 months at a time, come back, and the kids didn't know he went and wrestled there because that TV wasn't on in Detroit. So unless he wrestled in Detroit, they didn't see him. And then once it got famous, he said one day he came in because he used to do the green tongue. Yeah. He came in and all the kids on the football team had a green tongue and stuck their tongue out. And he was like, all right, yeah, fine, whatever. Shut the fuck up. Move on.
Like the revolting Vla.
That's exactly who he is. I think that's who it was probably patterned after.
Be, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. But Scott ends up training under Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., who Jerry Graham, if I'm not mistaken, is the guy who got Vince McMahon interested in. Vince wanted to be a wrestler at first. He always wanted to be a wrestler, and his father told him, no, we rob them blind. Are you stupid? You want to be on this side. Why would you take what someone gives you when you can control the stack of money, dummy? And
no, the houses are over here.
Yeah, no, stupid. Here, come here. Would you rather be in pain and poor or walking tall and pockets full of money? Which would you rather have, dummy?
Would you literally like to be flying with just you on the plane?
You want that?
That's this side.
That's this side. Or
Flying
Southwest boarding Group 7. You pick. Because that's the option.
Yeah.
So
You gotta wait for those little posts to be empty 6 times.
yeah. Jerry Graham, Dr. Jerry Graham was a real flamboyant, kind of guy. He would drive down, like in New York City when he was in New York, he would drive down the street, make sure to be seen in the middle of Times Square or something, and fucking with a big Cadillac convertible and use money to light his cigars and shit. So people go, oh, that's that wrestler. That's the type of guy he was. And Vince idolized him. That's who he wanted to be like. And this is, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely. It was part of his gimmick. That's how you draw money. You got to invest. It's the same thing as buying a fancy ring robe, or you're investing in your character. That's what they do. You got
to earn money to make money.
You had to live the lifestyle to get people to come see you. It's like a boxer. Wow. It's the same thing. That's where boxers got it from. I mean, literally, Ali saw fucking Gorgeous George and went, oh, wow, look at all those people there. That's not even real. Holy shit. I actually punched somebody. Imagine if I talk like that and actually punch people.
Yeah.
So he ends up being trained under Dr. Jerry Graham, apparently here. Scott does. And also the original Sheik is there. I don't know how much training he does, but he's hanging around. I can't see the original Sheik at that point being like, come on, get in the ring. I'll show you some moves. If you saw this guy. Original Sheik is Sabu's uncle, if you know who Sabu is.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Like for real?
For real uncle. Yeah, no, it's his actual uncle. So he ends up getting, he breaks into the business here using his real name, Rex Steiner, and he is in the WWA, which is a dying. This is a tough thing. This is like getting into comedy. This is like us growing up and then getting into comedy. Like if you grew up wanting to be a wrestler in 1983, say, like, and you were like, let's say you're a teenager and you knew in a few years you wanted to be a wrestler, there is a territory that's thriving in every market in the country. So you could just go be a wrestler. Like, it's super easy to break in. There's tons of places to work. You could get a job, especially if you're a, all-American amateur wrestler who looks like Scott Steiner. You get a job, no problem. But by the 5 years later, none of that shit exists anymore.
Oh, boy.
So it's almost like if you went to college for a certain thing, you went there, got your full degree, and once you got out, the business was shoe cobbling. It was just fucking dead.
Timing's everything.
So that's what happened to wrestlers at this point. Guys that wanted to be wrestlers, if they tried to enter past about 83, there was only a couple places to start. All the territories were dead. Vince McMahon had, kind of sucked them all up.
So everything.
The WWA was a dying, pathetic territory by this point. It was one of these places where Dick the Bruiser ran it, and it was one of these places where when you look at their history, like 1 week or 1 month they're in like an arena, like a basketball arena that holds like 5,000 people, and then that's not selling at all, and they're getting 700 people in a 5,000 seat arena. Then they end up going to like some bar disco where they have the wrestling at like 5 o'clock before the disco opens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they do that. Like when you do comedy gigs at Club Rio back in the day at like in the light at 5 o'clock for 8 people before it turns into a club and thousands of people showed up back in Phoenix. Remember those gigs?
Yeah. And they don't expect it.
And you were like, I got $20 and you think you're all excited about it. So that's the type of thing they were doing. And then it went from that to doing like not even a ticketed, like a free county fair show. That's what they were running. So this is the time Scott Steiner comes along and joins this promotion as it's dying in its dying fucking days. And it was really, really sad. He ends up winning the WWA World Heavyweight Championship, which is worth, really not a lot. A guy at the concession stand could call you the champion of something. It would mean about the same at this moment in time. So he loses the title here in May of 87, and then he ends up in a tag team with Jerry Graham Jr., and they win the WWA World Tag Team titles.
Great.
This is like kids doing it in their living room at this point, though. There's literally, I was reading a thing with the attendance numbers. It's like, 280 people would show up. It's not worth doing this for.
Yeah.
That's terrible. So, he did all of that. He's got an early Flair story from this time. One thing consistent about Scott through his whole career, he hates Ric Flair.
Really?
Absolutely hates him and loves to talk shit about him. We'll talk about it publicly. On Nitro he did it. But he hates him. So here's a story from a few years ago that he told about his first couple months in the business and encountering Ric Flair, who at the time is as big a star as there is. It's Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair are the two guys. So, quote, "My first 2 months in the business was my first indication that Ric Flair was a piece of garbage."
He showed me his dick.
I broke in with Dick the Bruiser, which, by the way, sounds threatening.
It does.
Dick the Bruiser sounds like he's going to lay a fucking on you. Going to lay a fucking on you that's going to make you walk funny for a month. You're right? He's going to bruise you up, old Dick.
Yeah.
He said, "I broke in with Dick the Bruiser, and I was going to go down to the NWA for a tryout. I told Dick, and he said, as soon as you get there, you drop your bags in front of Ric Flair, and you tell him to carry your bags, and you tell him I said so."
Huh?
Which,
don't do that.
Don't do that. Dick the Bruiser can do that because he's an old-timey tough guy wrestler, and he's a different cat. A rookie can't do that. I said, okay, I'll do it.
Dick's fucking with him, right? And he doesn't know it?
Quote, "I didn't know anything about ribs back then."
All right.
There you go. Next line. Yeah, Dick's ribbing him. That's what this says.
How would you not expect that, though?
Because he's an amateur wrestler. Those guys are too serious. They don't have that comedy gene that a wrestler has of like, okay, let's have some fun. Not even a comedy gene, but a let's have some fun gene, a fuck around gene.
That's a slow burn joke, too, by Dick, because
all
he's
of them
waiting
are.
by his phone, waiting for a phone call for the report of his joke.
He sits, that's the thing. He tells him that, then he goes home and smiles and goes, that's going to be fun in a week. It's planting seeds. That's what these guys do. They're planting seeds everywhere, and then every once in a while they come into harvest, and you're like, hey, look at that. The corn's in. Hilarious. Oh, man. On the way home, I was riding with Bulldog Don Kent, and he said, "No, you can't do that." But Dick the Bruiser had no respect for him. He said that's how he got into the business, carrying guys' bags. Look at Bruno Sammartino. He has zero respect for Flair. Ole Anderson once slapped David Flair and said, I've got more for your dad if he wants some. That happened in public at an autograph signing, like one of those wrestling weekends where everybody was like, oh, I haven't seen you in so long, and hugging. And then Ole Anderson, at this point, a broken down old man, just slaps a fucking like 27-year-old David Flair in the face and says, I got more for your old man if he wants it. Wow. This is what this is funny. I compare wrestling to comedians a lot, and I think this is why. Comedians have the same animosity. They just don't go around hitting each other. It's the animosity of this without the balls to actually hit each other. That's who we are. That's it. We'll see a guy go, this cocksucker motherfucker. Hey, what's going on? No, how you been? Yeah, where you go? Oh, that's good.
But some of them do have this because they'll, in the comedy condo of whatever shit town they're in this weekend, they're going to do something horrible because they know that their friend is here next week.
They have the rib gene, that's still a passive aggressive one. They don't have the one to go, pow, I got more for your dad if he wants it too. Comics don't do that generally. That's why they're comics, because if we did that sort of thing, we wouldn't have to be funny at all. We could just go around fucking dominating the world. We wouldn't have to be funny. We figured out a way around.
You wouldn't slap Damon Wayans Jr.?
Pow! I got more for your dad if he wants some. Huh? Why?
What? I don't
slap Kelly Carlin's ass. I'll dig your father up and roll him over if you don't like it. I love George Carlin, but still, that's fun. I love Damon Wayans too, so who cares?
All Will Smith had to say was, I got more for Tony.
Yeah, I got more for Tony. I got more for Little Penny if he wants some too. Oh, God damn it. So there you go. So that's what he said. He said he didn't care. I slapped him. I got that. Flair had so much heat with the guys he wrestled with, he has zero respect. That's how he says. So Scott ends up going to Memphis, which if you started in the late 80s, you started in Memphis. That was the only real, like, successful territory left. This is the end of dying days of Jim Crockett when he's about to turn into WCW, and that's also when Crockett was a big thing. It wasn't a little territory. You couldn't just break in and you couldn't just have some pictures and be like, I've wrestled a couple months with Dick the Bruiser, and they're going to put you on national television. You know, there was the WWF, there was WCW, NWA, and then there was Memphis. Portland was still out there, but it was dying. So Memphis was where you'd go. Hard times in Memphis. This is hard times, Ric Flair. This is Steve Austin talks about just eating nothing but potatoes for weeks at a time. Jesus. And other people have said they saw, you look in Steve Austin's door, he had like a garbage can full of potatoes, and he'd just be peeling potatoes all the time.
That's all he eats.
Because that's all they could afford.
Wow.
You know, it's the famous one where they were saying, hey, don't be on steroids. And one of the guys said, steroids? Well, you pay us. We're not even on food. So that's the famous line Jim Cornette always says. A lot of guys have repeated it, though. It's like,
we're not even on food.
We're not even on food. I don't know if it's apocryphal or what, but it's what it was. Like, the guys were starving. Yeah. They drove huge distances for $25. It's very comedian-esque here. Very comedian-esque. So, he's in a bunch of matches here. Let's see where he starts out. Oh, 87. Late 87 he comes in as Scott Sanders at first, which is interesting.
Why would you?
I don't know. I guess to not ruin his name while he jobs a little bit, because when you come in, you're going to job a little bit, because he loses to Black Bart here. Max Payne. Oh, my God. Brickhouse Brown was still around at that point, 1988. If you want to have some fun and hear a guy talk a lot of shit, if you want to hear an old wrestler talk a lot of shit about other old wrestlers, look up a Brickhouse Brown shoot interview, because it's hilarious.
And later in life interview.
Oh, my God. He's the most – he hates everybody. It's hilarious. He's an old black guy who hates everybody. Wrestling. Just hates them all. That guy, he's a pussy, phony fraud, motherfucker. Fuck him. I'll kick his ass. Everybody. It's so fucking funny.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer. I can really show you how to make some money. And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a micro-city built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
So I see him losing a lot here. He's losing. Kurt Hennig comes in and beats him before he goes to WWE. Gary Young. There's a 3-ring battle royal where he wins one of the rings. It's him, Jeff Jarrett in the other ring. His dad owns the promotion, so he's there. He was real skinny at this point. And then Robert Fuller, who's the guy with the giant cock that everybody talks about. Oh. Everybody says he's got like a fire hose penis. That's like
really
terrifying. Yeah, a terrifyingly large penis. They all say he's known for it. Like it's his thing. There's like a few guys in the business where you're like, that guy's dick is scary. Like Lenny Dykstra was afraid of Darryl Strawberry.
Yeah.
And it's Robert Fuller is one of them.
Why is that the one? It always sticks with us. Is it penis envy? Is that what it is?
With someone where it's this big, from what I understand, it's not even envy. It's actually like, whoa. It's like fear. If you, not only fear, it's like if you're playing basketball on a playground and some guy hits a couple of shots over you and whatever, and you're like, oh, that motherfucker. You're kind of pissed off and you don't like him. If you're guarding him and he just lifts off from the foul line and dunks, you just go, holy fuck, and you high-five him. You don't get mad at that. You just go, wow, holy shit, that's crazy. That's what this is. This is dunking from the foul line. You're just, your cock's so big, you're not even jealous of it. You're just like, you can't even imagine what that is.
Okay.
It's just like watching a movie with a big explosion. You're like, wow. That's something. So during this time, the Steiners, by the way, in their run, at one point they're managed by Missy Hyatt, who's another very interesting person to look up and figure out about. And she's right now she's all put together with plastic surgery, and it's really she's all patched up, but she does all sorts of she had a ton of pay $5 a month to see my tits on my website type shit going on at that point in time, like OnlyFans before OnlyFans. So she did shit with Sonny, actually.
Like naked stuff was that?
Yeah, like the washed up ladies of wrestling type shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then Rick ends up. This is a trope they've done a lot, where they pick somebody out of the crowd. You know what I mean, quote unquote. Like, oh, this lady's in the crowd, and then she's actually a wrestler, and they do it all the time. That's how Luna Vachon. Yeah, that's how Luna Vachon got into the business. That's how a bunch of people got into the business. This time, they pick out a fan here, quote-unquote fan, who's already been in the business. They call her Robin Green. She ends up turning into Woman, who is Nancy Benoit. Okay. So that's how she gets into WCW here. That's how that ends up happening.
The lady that he killed?
Yeah, his wife, Chris Benoit's wife. God. Yeah, so...
Shit.
Yeah, that's who this is. There's a lot of tie-ins with Rick Steiner and everybody we've ever done an episode about, basically. It's all tied together here. So they end up having a feud with him and his brother form a tag team when they go to WCW.
Right, Steiner Brothers.
The Steiner Brothers, and their gimmick is they're like amateur wrestlers. Like they have like the college fight song music when they come out, and fucking they have like singlets that they wear. Yeah. They wear University of Michigan jackets, like Letterman jackets. Oh. Rick actually has headgear on, like wrestling headgear. No shit, like comes to the ring in headgear. Yeah, he looks like an idiot. So he comes in headgear and all that kind of shit. So they're both. They're total good guys, okay? But behind the scenes, they're also kind of bullies as well, because they are, and as a team, no one is tougher than these two people together. They're pretty fucking tough guys.
They were a formidable foe as a team.
If you
their team
combine
record
them,
was pretty good, yeah. And they were popular. You liked them.
Very. But I mean, like, outside the ring, too, they're really big, tough, rough guys that nobody wants to fuck with. From what I understand, Rob is tougher than Scott, and Scott's known as a fucking psychopath. So,
yeah.
And Rob's always known as the tougher one, everybody says.
You mean Rick.
Yeah, you mean Rick. So they also bully people. Here's an interview from Eric Bischoff where he talks about the Steiner brothers a bit when he first came in. He says, quote, "Shortly after I joined WCW in 1991, it might have been my very first pay-per-view, actually, and I showed up. Everything was new to me. I didn't know any of the talent. Everything was new and exciting, and I was intimidated by most of it. And at that pay-per-view, we had to use that wrestling mat room as our dressing area. I show up, find a corner back away from everybody because I was intimidated. Just wanted to keep my head down, keep my job, and not upset anybody. He's an opening comic who just doesn't want to get kicked off the weekend.
Yeah, just trying to be part of the show. Yeah, be in the background.
That's it. Try not to fuck up. Don't let anybody know I'm here. If they don't notice I'm here, they can't get rid of me.
Right.
He said, I'm in there in the corner dressing room, getting ready, and I look over, and the Steiner brothers are torturing this referee. I mean torturing him, stretching him, bending him, squeezing him, breaking him until they got tired of it. Then they wrapped him up like a mummy in gaff tape and left him in the corner.
Why?
Like they're in high school. That's some shit in 10th grade that you do.
Yeah. Give him a fucking swirly.
But we're all adults getting paid money to be on television now. This is
our
silly.
job now.
Fuck. So Bischoff continues, I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be fun. I can't wait to work with these two guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, going to be great. He said later on, though, he said subsequently, I went on to become really good friends with Rick. Rick and I took a real and very special hunting trip. Real and very special? What does that mean?
Even mean?
Is that a Brokeback Mountain situation?
So.
Real and very special hunting trip up to the Yukon. Men don't take very special trips to the middle of the forest together unless it's romantic, right?
Yeah, we were looking for coyotes, but I found his hedgehog, some shit like that.
Jimmie, you want to take a very special fishing trip with me at some point? Me and you. It's going to be very, what if it's very real and very special? Does that make it more attractive to you? Or do you think I'm going to have you up against a tree at some point, is what that sounds like?
Against? I think I'm going to be tied to it.
To say, at some point your face is going to be rubbing against oak bark. You know what I mean? And you know that, right? If somebody says that, grinding into it.
Ponderosa flakes in my hair. Made of sawdust.
No fucking shit. Oh my God. So they took him and Rick took a very real and very special hunting trip to the Yukon, just south of the Arctic Circle. We were up there for 10 days and 2 weeks. 2 separate trips. It was just amazing. I've had a lot of great experiences with Rick. Scott, I didn't hang out with so much personally. Scott was always a little different. It's kind of like hanging out with a hand grenade. Eventually it's going to go bad. That's Scott.
Yeah.
Scott's a human hand grenade. You never know what's going to happen.
At some point, he's going to be set off, and it's not good.
It's going to be ugly for everybody. So they end up, Scott and Rick are, immediately a force. And you could tell their matches look different on TV. Yeah. They have a different pace. There's a different level of explosive. All their moves are explosive. A lot of suplexes before that was a big thing. Now you see German suplexes everywhere. Guys are always suplexing each other around. But back then, that was like a different type of thing. And it was exciting to watch just Scott throw somebody across the fucking ring was like, wow.
But people, even getting tossed into the ropes back and forth and then some like wild move in the interim, that's pretty cool to see. But just imposing your will and tossing a full-grown man who's giant also. That's incredible.
It's a 230-pound man. He just tossed like it's a 2-year-old kid that he's throwing on the couch for fun. Yeah. That's how they were. And they do athletic shit, too. They were very athletic, big guys because they were young and they were good athletes. And then Scott would do the Frankensteiner, and it would, they were very, very fucking exciting here. They became, pretty... Everybody wanted to see a Steiner brothers match. You'd go, the Steiners are on here. So he starts, he actually wins some awards from this time from the Wrestling Observer, which is the Dave Meltzer thing here. He wins Best Wrestling Maneuver in 89 and 90 with the Frankensteiner.
Oh, everybody loves it.
Which 5-6 years later, Hurricane Run is a very common move that nobody gives two shits about. But at the time, for a guy his size to be doing it, it was very impressive. Match of the year, he wins as well, with his brother Rick versus Hiroshi Hase and Kensuke Sasaki in Japan. So they're very popular in Japan, these two.
Really?
Any big, rough, tough, throw you around the ring American is popular over there. Or cowboys used to be very popular because that's very American.
Yeah.
Any big giant cowboy could go over there and make a fortune because that was like, oh, look at that big bad American. Ooh.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, then all the Japanese guys here were in a robe sneaking around behind you throwing salt at you. So it's just, what's the stereotype of what people think this is?
Right.
Big cowboy, sneaky little salt thrower. That's it. Those are what the two countries had for each other. Broken. Wrestling is everything broken down to its, to its core. It's boiled down to its elements.
And we take it to like something so long ago. Like the kids today don't understand what that means.
No, even in the 80s, it was like it was a stretch, Like I knew about World War II because I knew about it from school and stuff, but it wasn't like I inherently knew, the Japanese attacked us and all that. I didn't fucking know that. It just lingered. Right. And then you just go, Japanese people must be sneaky. That's what you think. Because that's what every wrestling guy is. He's sneaky.
It's hilarious.
Oh, and never hit a Samoan in the head because it won't work. Never works. So he also takes the Tag Team of the Year award with his brother Rick from the Wrestling Observer and Pro Wrestling Illustrated. He also wins Match of the Year versus Lex Luger and Sting at Super Brawl with his brother. Tag Team of the Year in 90 and 93. 89, he wins Most Improved Wrestler. And in 1991, Pro Wrestling Illustrated ranked him number 6 of the top 500 singles wrestlers of the year.
Number 6.
Number 6. There's an interesting thing from this time where Jim Herd takes over WCW. We've talked about this a few times. Jim Herd ran like Pizza Huts in St. Louis, and they put him in charge of the wrestling company for some reason. So he had terrible ideas like the ding-dongs, the guys with the little bells all over them. The hunchbacks were his idea. The hunchbacks because you can't pin them. Get it? Because you can't put their shoulders on the mat. So things like that were his idea. He's an idiot who doesn't know anything about it.
Turtles taken.
Ric Flair cutting his hair to that stupid haircut was his idea. He made Ric Flair cut his hair.
Flat top mullet.
Not the flat top mullet, the mushroom cut that he had.
What?
Like everybody in 6th grade, when we were in 6th grade, that haircut, Ric Flair had that haircut in like 1990, 91.
That's not good at all.
No, he looked like an idiot. And he really did look like a moron. And that was Jim Herd telling him he was, old and out of date. Yeah. So he wanted Ric Flair to lose a title. And his idea was, well, let's just have Scott Steiner come in and just beat him. And if Rick doesn't want to do it, just have Scott twist him into a pretzel and pin him and take the title. So that way, that was like one of the ideas. So they were going to use Scott as they actually thought about Scott as like, he could be the next big babyface singles champion.
Right.
And then he just ends up being in the tag team. They like him in the tag team. But it's weird because everybody likes Rick better, but Scott is the guy who the fans are go, oh, shit, when he gets in the ring because he's more explosive. Mm-hmm. That sort of shit here. So they're winning tag team titles all over the place. They win the way it would work back then. You'd win it, you'd have it for a few months, you'd lose it, you'd win it back. They'd go back and forth. So they do all of this shit. They win all these titles. Either way, they go to Japan in 92 as well. Over there, they're very popular. They won the titles there from Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader.
Awesome.
Yeah, in 92. Vader was a fucking athlete in 92. Yeah. He was still doing crazy shit. So was Bam Bam. That must have been fucking in Japan, too. That was probably a killer match. That was probably badass.
Right until he died, he was still doing wild shit.
Yeah. I mean, but back then, he was, for a big guy, he could fucking move.
Could he move.
They loved him in Japan for that. Yeah. He was a big star over there. So was Vader. Big, huge guy that could do a fucking moonsault is pretty impressive back then. Now, not a big deal. Then a big deal. So, Scott wins the World Television Championship on October 17th in WCW in 92, then vacates the title because they're moving on. They get into a contract dispute with old Bill Watts, who doesn't want to pay them their money, and they end up going to WWF at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Now WWE, obviously. Now, when they saw these two, the original idea was, why don't we make Scott come in as a surprise entrance in the Royal Rumble in 93. He'll win the event out of nowhere to be a big surprise, and then he'll go on to win the world title at WrestleMania 9. What do you say we do that? Let's let's stick a rocket up Scott's ass and take him to the moon because they think he could be it, because this is the downswing of Hulk Hogan, and they're like, they need another big good guy.
We need a hero.
Yeah. I need a hero. As we played from Lex Luger, and he wasn't the one. So Vince didn't like it, though. And also the Steiners wanted to be a tag team. That would have been pretty fucked up for Scott to come there with his brother and then be like, yeah, have fun in the opening matches. I'm going to be champ and stuff. Enjoy. When they came there together.
Maybe we'll have a brothers match one day.
Yeah, that'll be good. We'll split up, and it'll be great. So they book them as the Steiner brothers, though. They're the Steiner brothers, and they're a force. Their outfits at this point were horrific, by the way. They're fucking unreal bad. I mean, dude, Scott had this big curly mullet. It's a big mullet, too. It's it's voluminous, this mullet.
It's a lot.
He's got a big old mullet, and they have these singlets that they wear, like, amateur singlets, but they have fucking bright colors and geometric shapes all over them. It looks like the background for a kids show from the 90s. There'd be a host standing in front of it talking. Like, that's what it looks like. They made tights out of it.
The host of some math show, and they're going to teach you the fucking perimeter of an isosceles.
What the fuck was that kid show with Mario Cantone back in the day?
God damn!
What the fuck is that one? Did they have that in Arizona?
I believe so. I know of it. So
it's a local New York thing, I know, but I didn't know if it's it probably was syndicated after a while. Yeah, it's a fucking. It's all
I think Howard Stern may have talked about it. That may be why I'm aware of it.
Every week it was like 10 Puerto Rican kids on there. Where do you think they got those from? In Iowa?
Steam Pipe Alley?
Was it
That's
Steam
it.
Pipe?
Steam Pipe Alley.
No, he did not call that. He got, knowing him, and I don't know him, but know him as a comedian, he was like, wouldn't it be hilarious if
He got it called that.
If the gayest man in comedy calls his kids' show Steam Pipe Alley, and no one will know. Because he's funny as fuck.
Nobody caught on. So. They just let it happen. Mm-hmm. From Secaucus, New Jersey, Steam Pipe Alley.
It was on Channel 9.
WWOR.
Channel 9, WWOR, absolutely. I remember the fucking commercials had like the brick walls and had like graffiti and squiggles and bright fucking purple and yellow and shit. Yeah, Steam Pipe. All right, that makes sense. Mario Cantone, you crazy fuck.
You silly bastard.
Anybody from the Northeast is going, fucking yes, Steam Pipe Alley. And we're like, yeah, what the hell is that? I just couldn't remember the name of it. Sorry, everybody.
It's hilarious.
I think that's the Wallace and Ladmo of the East Coast, of the Northeast. Yeah. Because I never saw that.
He was on Sex and the City, right?
Mario Cantone? Probably. Yeah. I assume so. Yeah, he was
so.
on a lot. He's in a lot of shit acting wise. Yeah. He was a good actor, and he was also on I Love the '80s and I Love the '90s stuff.
Yeah.
All over the
VH1
place.
Shit. Yep.
All the VH1 stuff he did. So good for him. So the Steiners, though, they end up winning the World Tag Team titles here in '93. They beat Ted DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster, of course, for that.
Beat the Jesus into him.
Beat the Jesus right into him. Then they lost the titles 2 days later, which that's fun. They also beat the Quebecers at one point. Oh, no, they lost the titles to the Quebecers. Sorry.
That's who they lost it to?
They lost them to them. So WrestleMania 9 they were on. This is their big WrestleMania. This is one of the worst WrestleManias, probably the worst of all time.
So long ago.
It's 29 years ago now.
It's a single digit, for Christ's sake.
9.
Yeah.
This is a huge pile of shit. It's a huge pile of shit.
They're clearly gearing up for number 10.
Number 10's in Madison Square Garden because they gear it down because this is during the steroid trial, so they don't have like a big extravagant thing. They just do a Madison Square Garden one, and it's actually a good show. It's Brett and Owen, a lot of good stuff in '94, or in WrestleMania 10. WrestleMania 9, shit show. Outdoors at Caesar's Palace.
Yeah.
They constructed that whole thing. It's daylight for half the show, and it's
outside in Vegas.
Outside in Vegas in the daylight, there's no energy. The crowd's dead. The matches are weird. It's a low point in their talent.
Outdoor shit, all the energy just dissipates. You can't do this. Yeah.
Unless you have a stadium with 60,000 people, which that's a different story. But if you have this, it just doesn't work. It looks like shit. And they have it's an ancient theme. They have all togas and
God.
Guys come in on elephants and they come in, carrying you on a fucking throne and all that shit. It's all
Jesus.
Yeah, all that crap. So WrestleMania 9, let's see here. The dark match is Tito Santana beating Papa Shango. Second match, Tatanka with Shawn Michaels against Shawn Michaels. Okay. And Luna Vachon is in this one, actually. Luna Vachon and Sherry are the two managers, which is pretty cool. Two badass women out there. Then the third match, still light outside. No energy in the crowd. Steiner brothers versus the Head Shrinkers. Remember them? No. Samu and Fatu, Samoan guys.
Yeah, it feels racist.
Oh, they were the descendants of Afa and Sika and all them. That was that family.
Exploitative shit. I like it.
Oh, yeah. But they did it themselves, though. They were exploiting themselves for it. They had their own promotion and shit where they were doing this. I mean, this was just what they did. So they beat them they beat the Head Shrinkers in about 15 minutes, and it's a pretty boring match. I got to be honest with you. It's everything in this show is boring. There's no oomph to it at all. Yeah. It's just all flat.
There's no moment that shines or moments up, plural.
Well, there's a couple that shine in a bad way we'll get to here. Doink the Clown beats Crush.
Great.
And I know a lot of people have asked for a Doink the Clown episode. Matt Bourne is who it is, Matt Osborne. And I would love to, but honestly, you can't find the old arrests for him. Like when he was really in his prime in the 80s, all coked out and fucking up. You can't find them. They're either gone or they were also swept under the rug a lot. So it's hard to find. It wouldn't really be...
You have to get him to tell the story and do it in a candid way.
He died 8 years ago, so that's going to be difficult. It's difficult, so that's going to be tough. Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, another alumni here, beats Bob Backlund. Jesus, he was still around at that moment. Holy crap. Here we go. Then the first main event. There's 2 main events, and it turns out to be 3 main events here. Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and Urban R. Shyster versus the Megamaniacs, Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake, all right, with Jimmy Hart in their corner. This was Beefcake, had that mask on and everything, that weird plastic mask.
Oh, really?
This is the one where Hogan came there with the black eye. He showed up with a huge black eye that looked like someone hit him with a cinder block in the face.
Certainly real?
Oh, it was real. Yeah, it was real. It was a jet skiing accident. They were out jet skiing, and a jet ski ran right into his face.
He took a Sea-Doo to the face.
Sea-Doo to the grill piece, and then he came out there for WrestleMania looking like he got beat up in the parking lot.
Well done, Florida, man. Florida through and through.
Unbelievable. That's the most Florida thing ever. I got the biggest match of the year tomorrow, brother. What should we do? Let's jet ski. All right. Sounds good. What do you do before any major thing? You jet ski just to clear your mind. That's like a Florida walk around the block.
Was he racing somebody who fell off and
he just
hit him?
He fell off and then the thing circled around and he didn't see it and it whacked him in the fucking grill. That's all. Pow.
Yeah, because they do circle when he fall off.
And he claims it was this big dramatic thing that I don't really believe, but he claims that he was unconscious and someone had to save him and he, all of his face was broken. Hulk always exaggerates. Yeah. That's why he made so much money in wrestling. So
he got a black guy and had to be on TV. That's what happened.
That's what happened. Lex Luger beats Mr. Perfect here. So Kurt Hennig and Lex Luger. The Undertaker, this is maybe the worst match in WrestleMania history. Top 5 here. Undertaker and Giant Gonzalez.
Who?
He was the guy that he's about 7'6".
Yeah.
Literally. And he wore a suit that looked like muscles. It looked like if you skinned a person, like the muscles underneath, that was what the suit looked like. And it also had patches of fur all over it, like he was a cave creature.
He ran a bodies exhibit with fur attached to it.
With fur attached to it. That's what he was. And he'd come out, and he's 7'6", and he's all lumbering, and it's terrible. This guy, he's the guy from the Billy Crystal movie, where he's got a giant. My Giant, it's called. That's the guy.
I have seen that.
He's the
why
giant.
Can't I see his face?
It's, you'll sleep better tonight if you don't see it. It's a terrifying face. And then he ended up going to Argentina, crumbling into a wheelchair and dying shortly later on from being too tall. I think that was the official cause of death. Too tall. Mark it down. 4:28 p.m. Too tall. He's dead.
He died of Great Danism.
Take him out of that chair and, I don't know, find a couple of coffins and put them back to back. I don't know what to tell you. So
he won't fit in the coffin. Incinerate him, and then he'll just be at the top of it.
He's going to be a lot of ashes, though.
Just fill it.
Just fill it all up. This is the guy. He got to the United States and into sports because Ted Turner signed him to a personal services contract because he thought either he'll play for the Hawks because he's so tall.
Yeah.
Even though he's not really a good basketball player, either he'll play for the Hawks or he could be in movies. He's a giant. Like we could use him in some whatever. I'll use him somewhere. So he signed
one way or another. I'm using that enormous body.
That's it. So he ended up in WCW, and then Vince saw him, and Vince can't turn down a genetic freak of nature. So he sees that, and he's like, "Holy shit! I'll look at him. Oh boy! Take your shirt off. Oh, wait a second. No, here." Put this outfit on that makes you look like you have muscles. I don't like what I saw when you took your shirt off. For once, I didn't like what I see, and that's rare for me, honestly. I like it all.
Bearded lady.
Look at you. There you go.
That's what he is, right?
Put the patches of fur on there. Yeah, there you go.
He's just a circus runner. He's a Barnum brother.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. P.T. Barnum. That's it. He's P.T. Barnum, but more vicious somehow.
More gross.
Yeah. P.T. Barnum who needs blowjobs. So
and he treats people like bears and elephants.
Imagine if you put P.T. Barnum literally on shitloads of steroids for 20 years. That's what you'd get. 30, 40, whatever, however long he's been doing it.
Yeah.
So next up is Yokozuna and Bret Hart. Bret Hart is the champion. Yokozuna is the 500-pound, quote-unquote, Japanese man who's actually Samoan. He and his manager, Mr. Fuji, who's Hawaiian, who's from Hawaii, pretend to be Japanese people who hate America. This is the other part. In 1993, do you remember a feeling of hatred coming from Japan toward us? Do you remember that?
No.
I don't remember that.
Feels like over 50 years that dissipates.
They pretended like it was just strong and new and there was a big rivalry, which there wasn't. So Yokozuna beats Bret Hart to be champion, become champion. And then, in the most ridiculous turn of events in the history of WrestleMania, because Vince thought maybe he didn't like the way business was going. He thought maybe it's just the Hulkster. Maybe I just need the Hulkster back on top and everything will be okay. So Yokozuna wins. He beats Bret Hart. And then fucking Mr. Fuji, the manager, gets on the mic and challenges Hulk Hogan to come out right now. and they'll beat you too. You just won the belt. So logically, you're going to go, while my fat 500-pound guy is tired from the match, I'd like another guy to come out and fight him again, even though we don't have to do this. There's no logic here whatsoever. There has to be logic to wrestling.
We're going to continue defending this belt every 5 minutes with another match.
Doesn't matter, even though we don't have to. So the reality logic of it is very stupid. So Hulk Hogan comes out and beats Yokozuna and fucking slams him and leg drops him and the whole deal and becomes champion and takes the belt.
You got to be champion for 7 minutes.
It's the dumbest fucking thing ever. It's super dumb. So that's WrestleMania 9, and it's god awful. It's fucking hilarious, honestly.
What a joke.
So they're there for a little bit. They're really kind of non-consequential after that, the Steiner brothers. I mean, they're winning tag belts and shit like that, but it's not that was so. Who cares if you're beating DiBiase and IRS? Who gives a shit? That's boring.
IRS was a big son of a bitch, though.
He was big, too. Yeah, no, Rotundo was a big guy. Also, he looked big in his dress shirt.
Yeah, the three-piece suit really makes you look gigantic.
If you got a thick neck with a tie on, you look even bigger. So 1995, briefly, they end up in ECW for a while, which is the strangest fit ever. The Steiners are like the most mainstream guys there are, and them going to wrestle, especially in 95 ECW, which was like raw, gritty, 1,000 people in the bingo hall in fucking South Philly and shit. Like, it's a totally
jumping
different.
off of rafters and shit.
Yeah, hitting the summer of '95, I believe, was when they were having the barbed wire baseball bat matches with Ian and Axl Rotten and shit. Oh yeah, dude, it was gross. They'd hit each other, get stuck in there and shit, and have to yank it out. It's fucking disgusting. Really, really.
I watched some special about some kid that did those like hitting with the
light
neon
tubes
light.
And shit.
Yeah. Hit him and opened him up so bad he fucking almost bled out.
Oh, it happens all the time. It's so dangerous.
Christ.
Asinine thing to do.
Idiots.
Behind the closed doors of government offices and military compounds, there are hidden stories and buried secrets from the darkest corners of history. From covert experiments pushing the boundaries of science to operations so secretive they were barely whispered about. Each week, on Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on these hidden histories. 100% true and verifiable stories that expose the shadowy underbelly of power. Consider Operation Paperclip, where former Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II, not as prisoners, but as assets to advance U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. These aren't just old conspiracy theories. They're thoroughly investigated accounts that reveal the uncomfortable truths still shaping our world today. The stories are real. The secrets are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Redacted early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. I'm going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles,
a big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud,
sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Asinine thing to fucking do.
It doesn't make you tough, it makes you dumb.
It makes you very dumb here. So they're in here. They're in ECW. They're doing, Jesus Christ. It's really strange to see them, but they're beating like the Dudleys and Too Cold Scorpio, and they team with Eddie Guerrero. This is actually big stars in this match here. It is the Steiner brothers and Eddie Guerrero versus Too Cold Scorpio, Dean Malenko, and Cactus Jack, who's Mick Foley. Yeah, which is a pretty big goddamn. That's a lot here. They beat Scorpio and Malenko. They beat Scorpio and Chris Benoit the following night, because Chris Benoit was still there. So, Jesus, the Dinner Theater in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, they won. Holy shit, man. I forgot how small some of these fucking venues were. So 1996, back in WCW, and here's where it gets fun. Okay. This is, by the way, in May of 1995, in Bay County, Florida, he is arrested for driving with a suspended license.
Of course he is.
So, yeah, he's apparently not a good driver, as we'll talk about. An aggressive driver. He drives like he wrestles, I think.
Yeah.
Might be the problem. So they go back to WCW, and this is after Monday Nitro started. So this was when they were looking for horses. They needed to fill showtime here.
Yeah.
So they get the Steiners in there, and they're still tag team. They feel very outdated, though, by 95. They don't. By 93, they felt out, like their whole persona's outdated. Not the way they wrestle.
Yeah, it's just the
way they
gimmick
look.
shelf life is going away.
Yeah, you can't. That brightly colored geometric shapes was hot shit from like 90 to 92.
Yeah.
But then in like 94, you couldn't get more fucking lame than that. Like that was as lame as you got. Like by then everything was darker and.
What changed that?
It went from fucking Milli Vanilli to grunge, I think, in that time period.
It's just that pop shit that just went to grunge, right?
everything in all aspects of life, everything went from it had to be the shiniest, poppiest to it wasn't shit unless it was real. You know what I mean? Whether it be fucking, hip hop and the same shit with grunge music and all that kind of shit. It was had to be real, man. It had to be just put your flannel on, and you're either a gangster or a rocker. Either one. It doesn't. You could be just depending.
Master, we got a show tonight.
Depending on how you buttoned your flannel in the 90s, you could either be, a gangbanger or Kurt Cobain, depending on how you buttoned it. That's all it was.
Or where you tied it.
Top buttoned, you're a gangster.
Straight
fucking top 2 open, rest buttoned. Look at you, start a band. Do you play the bass, is what you ask people if you see that? But by 95, they're still wearing the geometric shapes and the bright, fuchsia color, like these brightly colored singlets. Scott still has the fucking mullet, man. Jesus. You couldn't have a mullet by 95. That shit was over. Shawn Michaels was the only one who could, pull that kind of weird shit off by the 90s, and he still looked ridiculous. And if you saw him at the grocery store, you'd go, look at that guy's hair. What an idiot. But in a wrestling ring, it looked okay.
Did Achy Breaky sink that fucking mullet? I think it did.
The mullet was done before that, though.
Was it?
And maybe in mainstream, I don't know, it was for me anyway, or for
Probably. Yeah, look.
When we were kids, 91, you had to cut that mullet off. That was it. By 91, it was, you better shave your shit and have some weird hair or something. Yeah. That's what we all had.
You judge a lot of fashion by north of the Mason-Dixon.
That's the other thing. I was just saying, I'm coming from a... Also, in New York, things there'd be fashions and then it would take, 5 years to get inland. That's what happens. So I think in the middle of the country, maybe down south, mullets were still okay, whereas here they were like, whoa.
Here they hung around a while. Even those Oakley blades, those things hung around a while.
Those with the mullet, yeah. You're right, actually. I remember going to Arizona for summers and being like,
oh, boy.
What the hell is wrong with these people?
Guys wearing those with that hair on a ninja. On a bright green ninja motorcycle.
Oh, boy.
They did it for so long.
I remember them on dirt bikes on the street in Phoenix wearing that, too. Seeing that a lot back then. A lot of dirt bike action.
I'm seeing more and more of it more recently, too. It's getting weird.
Yeah. Well, now they think it's funny. It's like, hey, listen, no, we fought the mullet. We fought it. We beat it. Leave it dead.
We beat it back.
We beat it back.
Take that dead thing off your head.
Yeah. This would be like fucking after World War II, the German people were like, we should put Goering in charge now. Like, no, we beat them back. That's the point. It's over with. Don't resurrect this shit. Once something's dead, fucking leave it buried.
Yeah, especially when it's so ugly.
No one should have a mustache or a mullet. I'm sorry. They just shouldn't.
Yeah.
No,
just
if you have
a mustache is awfully bizarre.
I get that you think it's funny now, but there's nothing funny about looking like a pedophile, and that's what you look like. When we grew up, mustache equals pedophile. Period.
Yeah.
If you were under a certain age and you had a mustache, pedophile. Over a certain age, we got that was the style in the 70s. You know what I mean? We understood that.
Right. And porn stash was a thing because there was guys, but porn stash still is creepy.
It's creepy, yeah. And you had to be like a Tom Selleck type to pull that off. You couldn't just be a regular guy who has a. And that's the other thing, too. You guys have to be careful. The reason why beards became popular recently is because people figured out a way to, rather than look like a pussy with a weak chin, they figured out, if I grow this out, people might actually think I'm tough, as a matter of fact, even though I have a weak chin.
Cover this bitch chin up.
Yeah. And that's what not everybody, but that's what a lot of beards are there to cover up a weak chin, because we had goatees for a long time, and then they were like, no, the whole thing. Let's do that.
And now we get to see which guys have weak beards.
Weak beards.
Have a weak beard and a weak chin? Fuck,
Not
man.
great. Well, the worst look is mustache alone with a weak chin, because it makes your chin look even weaker because your front lip sticks out more. Right. So that's a bad. Just stop.
Just shave your fucking face. I say through all this hair.
Save it through. Your chin is fine though.
I've
You're not covering anything. I don't
head.
think.
No. I'm covering laziness and fucking ingrown hairs.
Yeah, ingrown hairs. That's an issue. That's that we all have here. So the Nitro era starts here, and they're immediately, Rick and Scott are the kind of the main tag team. It's them, Harlem Heat with Booker T and Stevie Ray. Those are the main ones. They win the titles from Stevie Ray and Booker T in July of '96. Then they lose them again like 3 days later. Then they win them from Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in October '97. They lose them back to them in '98. They win them again, back and forth. So this is kind of the peak of their fame and everything. You know, nobody thinks that Scott's that much of a lunatic yet. They're considered kind of a good tag team, and everybody's happy with them. Let's say Grace now.
Very commercial at this moment.
Oh, yeah. No, they're on Monday Nitro. Yeah. They are very commercial, but they're starting to – they need a reboot. I remember watching this shit and going, these guys look really farty. Like they need something, new outfits or some shit.
Yeah.
He is arrested for speeding also at this point, which is funny. They win the tag titles July 24th, 96. He gets arrested for speeding July 26th, 96. Yeah. Then July 27th, they lose the titles.
Oh, no.
So I don't know if that was in response to him being arrested. They made him drop the title, or if that was like a punishment, or just
got to be going
bad luck
fast to get arrested.
You got to do reckless driving.
Yeah. You got to really be an asshole.
And that's the other thing. Scott is not a friendly guy. So I feel like that if you pull him over, he's not going to be like, sure, here's my insurance.
Right.
How's it going today out there? Like, he's going to be like, why are you breaking my balls, huh? What the fuck? He's going to put himself in handcuffs, I feel like.
After
just based on his attitude.
Probably, yeah.
Probably. So this is when, from 97 to early 98, in February 98, he turns on his brother and they become, they go their separate ways and be singles guys from then on. So this is when Scott completely metamorphosizes his look. Yeah. He goes from having a mullet to, within a year, noticeably gaining 40 pounds of muscle. I'm talking, you saw him. It looks like
the bicep.
All of his muscles look like they're surgically implanted. They don't even look like he's on steroids. They look like somebody took fucking, cantaloupes and put them in his body. It looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
It looks ridiculous. And he insists, I'm not on steroids. You're like, Are you? Scott, sir.
That's a lot that's happening, Scott.
His fucking veins were insane. It looked like he had snakes under his skin. Like they didn't even look like veins. They look I don't even know. It was just fucking
If you're not on steroids, you've got to get to a doctor quick because you have worms.
Dude, you have worms and snakes and eels and lizards and shit in there.
You've got tapeworms under the surface of your skin, man.
And they're making you bigger somehow, which is weird for tapeworms. But that's how he was. He was so fucking jacked that you're just like, what the fuck? And he cut his hair, dyed it bleach blonde, had like the dark goatee, the black goatee with the fucking bleach blonde hair. And
that's a good look.
and the sunglasses. Yeah. And at that point, he was trying to be cool. Like he had different outfits. Like he totally switched his shit up and made himself more like late 90s, which he did look very late 90s. I'll give him that here. So he starts. There's a feud he has with Buff Bagwell.
Really?
Over who has the better physique.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Wow, that's pretty ridiculous. He ended up, like I said, dumping his brother Scott. In storyline, dumping his brother Scott, doing all this type of shit. Now he comes out and he's Big Poppa Pump. He calls himself.
Yep.
Scott Steiner, Big Poppa Pump. Jesus fucking Christ! Later on is when he'll put the chain thing on his head.
Right. The shit that goes under a suit of armor. That weird
shit. Yeah. That just shit. Yeah. I was going to say, it looks like he's going jousting later.
But the thing is, like, when you see those guys in medieval times that wear those things, there's like dangling wrinkles in it. It's so flat because he's so fucking big.
Yeah,
like you can
enormous.
drape it over his shoulders and there's no wrinkle in it.
No, he's huge. He's a giant fucking man. He really is. So Big Poppa Pump, how'd he figure this out?
I would love to be there in the gym the day that he created that.
Let's find out how he did it. Let's give them it in their own words. What do you say? Let's let him tell us how he got here. Let's do in their own words, quote, I knew I had to go in a totally different direction. So I just totally flipped the switch. In amateur wrestling, you really didn't talk too much trash. Wrestling is a humbling experience. If you get too big, you'll get beat. So I had always had that mindset. But after a while, once I saw everything in the pro wrestling business, the politics, I had a totally different mindset than when I broke in. I had a whole different attitude. It was more of a rage, and that's what came out.
Okay.
This is when he just starts acting like a maniac. By the way, I found because of filings and court proceedings and all this shit, and because they were a publicly traded company, I have all of the salaries for everybody in WCW for 96 through 2000. It's fucking amazing.
How much did The Rock make?
He was in WWF.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is WCW.
This is WCW from that time period.
How much money were they paying?
Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's the 11th highest paid guy in that 4-year period is Scott Steiner. In front of him, too, Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, Bret Hart, Randy Savage, Sting. These are giant names. So if you're in that league, those are household names, those guys. Kevin Nash, Lex Luger, Scott Hall, Diamond Dallas Page, Roddy Piper, Scott Steiner. Right behind Steiner is Booker T, Ric Flair. So, he's in the...
All the guys that had wrestling buddies.
Oh, God, yeah, super famous household names. Hogan, over that period, by the way, just from WCW, over a 4-year period, $13,171,042.
Wow.
That's fucking wild. Goldberg made $8,900,000 during that period.
Not bad.
Not bad. Bret Hart made $6 million. He was only there for 2 of those years.
Yeah.
Randy Savage, $6 million. Sting, about $6 million. Kevin Nash, about $6 million. Luger, almost $5 million. Fuck, man. Piper 2.5. Scott Steiner, $2,371,285.
Not a bad payday for that guy.
Over that 4 years. No, 96, $156,000, $340,000 in 97, $324,000 in 98, 99, $696,000, and then $853,000 in 2000.
Hell yeah.
So,
big payday.
Banking some shit on there. Not bad. I saw Buffs on here. His best year was $407,000. He did less well. Hacksaw Jim Duggan's on there for $180,000 a year as well.
Is that right?
Hacksaw Jim making he made $210,000 in 97 when I forgot he even wrestled still.
I guess that's if you don't realize that he's still doing it and he's making that kind of money, it's pretty good. But that's peanuts for what that guy
used to make.
Oh God, what he's worth. That guy's awesome.
But I mean, back then he was an old nobody. Nobody wanted to see Hacksaw Jim Duggan fucking wrestle in 97.
Guy with a beard and a 2x4, big deal.
Big deal. So, the Steiner, though, he did all these. He got a $90,000 performance bonus for 98. He made, this is fucking funny. They have it into payroll, licensing, and merch. Oh. And merch, they get a tiny, 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 tiny fraction in WCW because they have guaranteed contracts, so it's different back then. So, like in 97, Scott made $329,964 on payroll, $10,676 in licensing. I think that's like videotapes and shit like that, and $2 in merch.
What?
$2 in merch. 98, he made $28 in merch. 99, $578 in merch. And then finally, $1,509 in 2000 in merch. Okay. And he also got paid, I believe, for something to do with Ready to Rumble, the shitty movie, as well.
I guess that's pretty good money in merch because I don't think I ever saw one person wearing a Scott Steiner shirt.
No, later on a little bit, but yeah, he does. The Steiners didn't sell a lot. What are you going to put in 96? You're going to put him with a mullet on a T-shirt? Everyone's going to wear that? No, it's not happening. So November 28th, 1998, everything seems to be going pretty well for him. He's Big Poppa Pump now. He's all famous. Well, he gets arrested that day. He, this is so fucking stupid. He's driving his Ford F-250 pickup.
Hell yeah.
And he threatens a State Department of Transportation worker on the road and hit him with his car.
He ran his truck into a DOT employee.
Yeah, on the road, which is not, you can't do that. No. It's double the tickets if you speed in those fucking things. Never mind if you hit a guy. Paul Casperine is the guy's name. He was directing traffic that day for the Georgia Department of Transportation. Wow. So poor bastard standing out on the fucking road waving people by and stopping people.
Vest, yeah.
Oh, my God. So about 1:40 p.m., a white pickup with tinted windows, a Ford F-250, and chrome running boards pulls up. He said the driver had a black T-shirt with cut-off sleeves that, I mean, you could see his arms. Like, he was like, holy shit, when he rolled down the window. Look at this guy's fucking arms. Anyway, this Casperine says to Scott Steiner, hey, this lane is closed. You can't go here. So Scott climbed out of the pickup.
Oh, boy.
With his fucking giant arms, scary looking, and threatened him and told him, move out of the way. Like, you get the fuck out of the way. I'm driving here. Yeah. Climbed out, though. That's terrifying. Then he gets back in the truck, and the guy says, it's closed, dude. I can't. There's people there. He then says, move or I'll run you over.
There's the threat.
And there's a direct threat.
Yeah.
He'll be charged with making terroristic threats as well from this. So then he pulls forward and the guy says, sir, the lane is closed. And he says, move over, I'll run you over. And he taps into Casperine with his truck, and he says, I said it's closed. And he said, I'll run you over again, and then does it a second time. Hits him again with the truck.
Yeah.
So he's not seriously hurt or anything, but he's been, he got hit with a truck twice for no reason. So, Jesus Christ. So he gets arrested for all this shit, and he gets taken in, and they're going to let him plead guilty. Okay, that's the whole thing. This is his first time offense with this type of shit. They're going to let him plead guilty, but what he says in court makes them pull back the guilty plea and said, "No, we're not letting you plead guilty now. You're too much of an asshole."
What did he say?
He somehow pisses this judge off here, Judge C. Michael. He said that he was going to plead guilty to terroristic threats. He told the judge that he doesn't believe he committed a crime.
Okay.
I'll plead guilty even though I don't think I did anything wrong, is what he said. Right. So he went, okay, well then never mind. You don't have to plead guilty then. He said he only pleaded guilty because he was concerned that a jury would convict him because of his public persona. That's what he told the judge.
Okay, we're going to try it.
He said, I didn't do anything. I'll plead guilty, but I didn't do anything. And if I do get a trial, it'll be a sham anay in your courtroom.
For fuck's sake.
Judges love it when you say shit, like when you insinuate that their court is going to run a sham trial on him. They love when you say that stuff.
Cool. You're calling me a kangaroo court. Great.
Yeah. So the original thing was to put him on probation for 5 years and order him to pay restitution of $2,676. The judge was sentencing him as a first-time offender, which means that he wouldn't have a criminal record if he successfully completed probation. So the judge explains the charges, then questioned him. He said not guilty of terroristic threats is what he said in the end. So they said, okay, then he can't plead guilty. He said dumb shit. Pull it back out.
5 years probation was being nice, man.
That was being nice.
You better shut your fucking mouth.
Maximum sentence is 26 years in prison.
Holy shit.
This is worse than robbing a bank, what he did. He made...
Wow.
This is like terroristic threats on a state employee while doing their duty. Right. This is like if you... They're basically treating it as if you ran into a cop that was doing traffic duty. It's treated the same way.
And you're impeding public safety, too, because you're creating if you go down a lane that's closed, the people behind you are going to fucking follow you, and now you've got a fucking situation.
Yeah, who knows if there is road up there?
Yeah.
There could be a missing chunk of blacktop that you fall in a pit. You don't know. There's a reason why there's a sign that says stop. Don't go here, dipshit. You're going to
go down a closed lane and you have people following you. Whatever happens to you is going to happen to them.
Oh, that's wild. So he takes it out on that guy. So he gets back in court the next week and pleads guilty. They allow him to plead guilty, this time to felony aggravated assault and making terroristic threats. He's got to plead to. He's got to plead guilty. The sentencing is going to come later on, and they're you're making him sweat a little bit now.
Yeah.
So the judge comes in, and Scott says, now, they said, you have anything to say for yourself? And the lawyer said, don't say you didn't fucking do it, and the court's a sham, please.
If you say anything, say, can I blow you, sir? And I apologize.
Please. Well, he said this, quote, I just apologize that this happened. Fine.
Great.
Shut the fuck up now. Great.
There it is.
So the judge said he's still going to sentence him under the state's first offender rules. That means that, it'll go away if he stays out of trouble at all. He is sentenced to, you, sir, may fuck off 10 days in the Cherokee County Jail over 5 weekends. He's going to get to do 5 weekends, not even 10 consecutive days. They said that. He also ordered him to pay $25,000 in fines rather than $2,600 in fines.
Damn it.
And also restitution, and has to stay on probation now for 7 years, not 5. He fucked himself.
Shut up.
Just shut the fuck up. He can't shut the fuck up, though. That's the thing about him. These are felonies. All these felonies. He also must perform 200 hours of community service as well.
Oh, my God.
Fucking idiot. The road's closed,
more about
stupid.
My court, sir?
The fucking road is closed, bro. You
That's
dummy.
all it was. That's all you had to do. You know, every one of us just goes, fuck, now the lane's really skinny. And we're real careful so we don't hit a fucking barricade. That's all you had to do.
All you had to do. Instead, he was like, get out of the way. Huh? Get out of the way. Well, I'm going to test that helmet, see if it works, pal.
Why was he so mad that day?
He's always, I don't know, maybe because he gained 40 pounds in 6 months.
Way too fast, yeah.
That'll make you angry, especially the things you have to do to fucking make that happen.
All the chemicals you got to put in there. Now it's imbalanced.
A little bit. The judge tells him, quote, if you cannot complete your probation satisfactorily and you come back before this court, the court at that time could adjudicate you guilty and resentence you to serve up to 30 years in prison.
Holy shit.
Knock, knock, keep your shit clean, motherfucker. That's what that says to me.
Oh, my God. That's so serious.
That is wild. Now, his lawyer, though, Scott's lawyer, said that he's a gentleman, really. Yeah. It's just the way he looks. He's a gentleman. He's well-educated. He said, quote, I have seen a man very different from his public persona.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets back into WCW, and we'll talk about him fighting with Diamond Dallas Page, Ric Flair, all sorts of people here. There's an Outside the Lines ESPN documentary thing. They used to have episodes all the time. It is on steroids and wrestling.
Oh, fantastic.
Because there was the steroid scandal with Vince McMahon in 93, 94. Once he got acquitted, nobody mentioned steroids and wrestling in the same sentence again for years. Nobody. They just forgot all about it. The guys got huge again, and it got silly, you know. Remember Triple H in 2000?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So they did. Yeah, it's acquittal. You're right. So this show, the highlight of this show is Scott Steiner. I mean, they're showing him. They're showing him before. They're showing him after. Yeah. And then they're showing him claiming that he absolutely didn't do steroids. And they're like, come on, dude. Like, he's the example of, like, come on. I mean, just use your eyes. Seriously.
Ridiculous.
Shut the fuck up, man. So they said also following the Outside the Line special about that, WCW out of nowhere scheduled a surprise drug test before a taping of Thursday Thunder, and Scott Steiner just no-showed the event. He claimed he had a back injury.
Right.
That's why, but he just no-showed.
Scott.
That's pretty funny here. He was fucking so bulky, too. Like, he couldn't move the same anymore. He looked cool and everything, but he
walked like a bodybuilder.
He used to bounce around that ring and throw people and come off the rope. I mean, he was a fucking athlete, and then it just turned into really not an athlete. At one point, he carries Scott Norton all the way across the ring before giving him an atomic drop. And Scott Norton's like 360. Right. He's carrying him up in the air, and the crowd is chanting steroids during the match because it was just on ESPN. And Bobby Heenan, who's my favorite person in the wrestling business of all time, says, quote, wow, I've never heard a crowd so pumped up before. This is 99-ish is when he starts wearing the weird chain thing on his head for some reason. I still don't know what he was thinking. Later on, he said, it just looked cool to me, so I figured I'd wear it.
It does look out of place when he's wearing it because it's like nothing else matches it.
No. If he put like some...
cool.
If he put like some armored, pants on, like some leg gear, maybe a cod piece, I'd go, okay, I get what he's going for.
Some steel somewhere, or the gloves at least.
Yeah, even one glove. But there is zero medieval accoutrement except for this thing on his head. He's wearing Oakleys and a fucking chain thing on his head. They just don't go together. We're mixing centuries here.
It looks he looks like Metal Chic.
Exactly.
It's like the Sheik if the Sheik was in Terminator 2.
Yes. It's such a fucking weird thing. So February 7th, 2000, and 2000 is really when WCW, the wheels are off the fucking wagon. It is just careening down the hill. Bad stuff. So this is when he does this Ric Flair promo. And they're not in a fucking... There's no reason for him to say this. He's supposed to go out there and say something about whoever he's in a fucking feud with, talk for like a minute, and then go back. That's his mic time.
Yeah.
You're on live television. They're giving you a hot mic. This is how long you have. Okay. He instead says this. All right. And I quote, "As you can see, when Big Poppa Pump comes to town, all my hoochies come around."
Okay, he's writing songs.
"But it's just a damn shame we had to leave L.A. and come to this cesspool called Tulsa." Well, I can't disagree with you there, so that's fine. But last night, that's typical heel shit, though. That's old wrestling 101. This dump of a town, boo! That's what heels do.
Just
say
hating
sucks.
the place that everybody here lives.
Yeah, that's the oldest trope in the book. That's, lame heat. Just this place stinks. Even Bret Hart. If you gave America an enema, you'd stick the hose right here in Pittsburgh. That was his famous line. Which I disagree. I think it would be Cleveland, but that's just me. I'd go with Tampa, but I don't know. If you've been to Tampa, I'm going with Tampa. So that's where that hose goes, buddy. So
on high.
on fucking flush it out. He said, "But last night, I was, what the hell is this? Kicking it in the booty? I don't know. Last night when I was kicking it in the booty, proving I was the daddy, that I was the king of the night, but I'm not one to brag." And then he's got Kim with him, who is Kimberly Page, who is Diamond Dallas Page's wife there. And he says, "Kim, why don't you tell him what it's like to be with the Purple Warrior?"
Yikes. Oh, my God, that's gross.
Penis reference here.
The Purple Warrior.
So then somebody else, there's another person there. They say, "Big Poppa Pump, you're not just any man between the sheets, honey. Kim, why don't you tell him what he's really like?" And Kim says, "Oh, that's right. Big Poppa Pump's not just any, just he's our Superman." Steiner says, "You're damn straight. So this goes to all my freaks out there. Big Poppa Pump is your hookup. Holla if you hear me." So now he's just saying shit that he heard in rap songs, even though he's a 40-year-old man from Michigan.
Holla if you hear me.
Hoochies is your hookup. Like, he's just listening to late 90s slang, and he's writing, "Is your hookup." That's what the kids say.
How do I say I'm going to fuck everybody?
How do I say I'm going to fuck everybody? He says, "Now, last week I was watching TV, and I watched..." By the way, before I say this quick, this is WCW's getting their asses pounded in the ratings by WWE. Like, they need to say, "We're great," and they suck.
Yeah.
Is what they need. Instead, he says, "I was watching TV," talking about Nitro, "and I watched a 53-year-old man come out here who has more loose skin than a Shar-Pei puppy come out here and say he's still the man." This is about Ric Flair. "I seen Ric Flair, number 2, the Nature Boy, come out here, who's been the bitch end of all the jokes, because he's supposed to be the limousine-riding, jet-flying son of a gun. But I'm saying one time you should have took a cab and used that money to fix your crooked yellow teeth." These are all things you don't say in wrestling promos. "So I had to ask myself, if WCW was going to hire the Nature Boy number 2, why wouldn't they hire the Nature Boy, the original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers? No one at this point who's watching this has ever heard of Buddy Rogers unless they're like a wrestling historian. Buddy Rogers is who Bruno Sammartino won the WWF title from in 1963. He's the original Nature Boy. He was the guy who came up with that character. Everybody came after that.
They didn't want the Nature Boy. They wanted Ric Flair.
No one knows that at this point, who the fuck he is. No one watching this show knows it anyway. He said, why didn't you hire the original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers? Now, I know that Buddy Rogers is dead, God rest his soul. Well, that's why they didn't hire him then, stupid, probably, right?
What a crazy thing to say.
Why didn't they hire him? Now, I know he's dead. But Ric Flair, your career is dead. And I know as he lays 6 feet under, he's still styling and profiling, because when you used your little brain and stole his name, there's one thing you couldn't steal, and that was his class.
So that's what he's doing, is just calling him a thief, a ripoff.
Calling him a thief, a ripoff, saying his career is dead, which if you're going to fight a guy, like if they were going to have a program, that's not the way you promote it. Your career's over and it's dead, and so I'll beat you in 2 seconds isn't the best way to say everyone should want to see this. It would have to be...
Stick around. You can't wait to see this amazing match. It's just...
Yeah.
I'm just going to pummel this guy.
I'm just going to pummel him. It's super easy. It gets worse. So when you walked down that aisle last week, I know I wasn't alone, because the people at home, all they did was grab the remote and change the channel to the WWF and watch Stone Cold. Don't say that, ever.
Don't advertise. What are you doing?
Right? A person you and your old friends got fired from here because you're a jealous old bastard. Which is true, but still, that's ridiculous. So you don't advertise what's on the other channel. So Flair.
And pretending that it's superior to what we're doing here.
And saying how much better it is.
Right.
Yeah, I do it too. He said, so Flair, remember this, in this wrestling business, there's never been a bigger ass-kissing, bitch-sucking bastard in this business. Bitch-sucking. That sounds good. You should be bitch-sucking, right?
Yeah, suck my bitch.
Suck my bitch. Ass-kissing, bitch-sucking bastard in the business, but also in life. You're the biggest ass-kissing, backstabbing, bitch-sucking bastard, and you belong where you're at in WCW, because WCW sucks, and so do you.
You wrestle for them, sir.
So change the channel and watch the other. What an asshole. Me, I'm just going to stay right here in the NWO for life. That's what he says, because he's in the NWO. Yeah. That is wild.
Bitch sucker.
He said, you suck, one of our biggest, highest paid stars. And that's fine, because this place sucks too. And this show sucks. And when I'm home, I switch and watch Stone Cold on the other channel. Excellent work, sir. Excellent. So, wow. J.J. Dillon says later on, he's the behind-the-scenes and office guy. He used to be the manager of the Four Horsemen and all that. He says, it was a situation where we were doing Nitro Live. Scott Steiner had an issue at the time with Ric Flair, and he had set verbiage that he would use, and then Rick was supposed to come on right after him in the ring and be able to respond to what Scott said, which was going to further the story for where we were going for an upcoming event. So he was supposed to come in, call Ric Flair a punk, and then Ric Flair was supposed to come out, talk shit back, and then they were going to end the segment with some drama, and then they're going to have a match at some point. That's the point.
Hit the same points that he just hit, but he just led him down a dirt road with landmines in it.
Well, and he went twice as long as he was supposed to, and on a live show, they couldn't then have Ric Flair come out. They just had to cut that, and then it just looked like Scott Steiner trashing him for 5 minutes, calling him an old bastard with crooked teeth who you switch the channel when he comes on.
He's a bitch sucker.
A bitch sucker. You bitch sucker. So he said that Scott had a personal dislike for Ric Flair, but Scott Steiner went in the ring and totally went on a tirade about Ric Flair, but it was not storyline related. It was very, very personal, and it went on and it went on, and of course the show was timed out, and you don't have a great amount of flexibility. And more importantly, was Rick to go out there next and respond to what was our understanding was what Scott would say on live TV to further the storyline. Obviously, I was upset, because how do you adjust to that on live TV? Right. And it was embarrassing for Rick. It was embarrassing for me, because Scott went out there with no prior warning and just made what he said very, very personal. I called Scott on it, and he's high strung, and so of course he took exception. and continued to prolong Flair backstage with me and said, your personal views, and I said, your personal views with Rick are personal with you and him, and live television when we have a storyline. That's not a place to carry on and air your personal opinions. So, that's how this all went on. So he said after that, he had to... He said Bill Bush was in charge of the company at the time. Bischoff was on hiatus. So Bill's first impulse was to fire Scott.
Yeah.
And then he had to deal with Brad Siegel, and the decision was to suspend Scott. I want to say 2 weeks without pay. I met a room at the WCW offices, which relocated from CNN Towers to the suburb of Atlanta. Met with him, had to break the news that the decision was to suspend him without pay. I guess I didn't consider the possibility that he would get physical with me. He's a big guy, and I have never had to fight with anybody inside the business. I've always handled it at a professional level, and in this case, he wasn't happy. So basically, He was even scaring him. So he later said, this is from the question, you've been very critical of Ric Flair in the past. What are your thoughts on his, career and his whole thing? He said, quote, this is talking about his Hall of Fame induction and everything, quote, I thought it was a joke how many times he cried. Remember the end? It's immediately. Pussy.
He's got fucking tears. What a bitch. What a
bitch sucking old bastard. Wow. He said, remember that NWO skit where X-Pac was supposed to be Ric Flair, and every time they asked him a question, tears would come down his face because he had a pump of water under his armpit? They had a Four Horsemen sketch where they all dressed up. Kevin Nash was Arn Anderson, so he had like a bald thing on, and he was carrying a cooler, and X-Pac was Ric Flair, so he had a blonde wig, and he was just saying woo, and he had a pump thing, and he'd make water just shoot out of near his eyes. It would pour down his face.
Just crying.
Like Tammy Faye. So now that comes into play for as far as what Ric Flair was like behind closed doors backstage. He was a crybaby. He was a little wuss, man. And for him to do it during a match and then at the induction ceremony, come on, man. Are you kidding me? That was the way Ric Flair was. He was doing it because he's a mark, man. It was unbelievable. That's how he was in real life. Here's another story. Ric Flair thought his big Four Horsemen were going to come back again, so Curt Hennig was going to join the team, and we were going to wrestle them at a pay-per-view in a cage, and it was going to be the Four Horsemen's triumphant return, but Hennig was going to return and join the NWO. When they told Ric Flair the finish, his eyes started welling up, and we had to leave the room because we started laughing. We were like, look at that little piece of garbage. He's freaking crying. I'm not the only one who has that view on Flair. If you talk to Bret Hart, he'll say the same thing about Ric Flair. Shawn Michaels and Triple H, they're all pieces of garbage, man.
He thinks that's hurting him, but that makes Ric Flair so much more endearing.
It makes him, it's less.
Even if he's crying on purpose, I don't care.
If your dick's out all the time, you better be sad sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You can't be that happy and have your dick out all the time. You just seem like the happy rapist. Otherwise, you seem like a sad guy. Maybe you just need some air. It's a different thing.
I cry so much.
Just not, on TV.
It's all appropriate, I think.
Yeah.
I hope. Sometimes
this is Flair did cry a lot. He was a big crier.
Yeah.
So June 7th, 2000, everything's going swimmingly. Might as well get married. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. He gets married to Krista Podsedley.
Oh.
There. Oof. They're going to have 2 kids together as well. And there you go. Neither of them are juniors, though. So good job. He comes in another time and calls DDP white trash.
Okay. Not bad.
All right. Now, Scott is pissed off because there was a big deal with Tammy, with Sonny. We've talked plenty about Sonny. Apparently, Kimberly, Diamond Dallas Page's wife, not on TV, this is all behind the scenes, found a crack pipe behind it, in the backstage area and assumed it belonged to Sonny because, pretty good chance that if you find
probably true, but look,
drug paraphernalia, you should probably ask her first if she's lost something. I would say.
Ask if her purse is a couple ounces light.
You missing something? Something that you're gonna definitely need.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this white Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. We're going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles,
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud,
sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
with a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I made no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from Law and Crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus.
So she went and told management that I found this belongs to Tammy. You know, you need to fire her. Because she was erratic and shit. So she was trying to get her fired. So Sonny denied it and offered to take a test right then, which she did, and she passed, actually. She passed the test. So that all ended up happening. So when Scott hears this and gets all pissed off and basically yells at Kimberly till she leaves the building, yells at Paige's wife, okay? The next taping, he cuts a promo on Diamond Dallas Page out of nowhere, calling him white trash the whole time. And he said, you say you're the people's champion. That's because you're white trash, and so are all these goddamn people out here. That's why they like you so much, because you're all white trash, and you're the white trash champion and all that kind of shit. So he comes back from the ring after saying all this shit, saying bad things about his wife, calling him white trash. So DDP comes up and goes, what the fuck, bro? Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? That's fucked up. Yeah. Why are you calling me fucking names for no reason? What's going on here? So apparently that really pissed off Scott. Can't tell him not to. So Paige said he felt he had to stand up to him. He couldn't let him bully him. So there's a lot of different versions of this, by the way. But the most consistent version is that Paige, after they're arguing, tried to attack Scott Steiner. He tried to take the first shot at him, which is smart if you got a guy who's going to kick your ass and he's much bigger than you.
Yeah, don't
try to get him first.
Calculate and control this match. Let's at least get him on his heels.
So it's unknown. We don't know whether he tried to punch him or he tried to get him in like a front face lock type situation. Either one, I would think neither of those would be a good approach to Scott Steiner at this moment.
You think a balls kick is the best move?
Here's what I think. I think you go around, you find something super heavy, and you clock him over the fucking head with it. And then you go, don't talk about me or my fucking wife ever again. And then you leave the building and don't come back.
While he recovers from whatever you just did.
Exactly. While he figures out how to pick his brains up. That's the only thing you do. Eventually, they get broken up. They're, being held back by other people. Steiner breaks free because he's a giant maniac. Yeah. Absolutely fucking goes nuts on DDP, jumps on him, starts mauling him. DDP is he's not a thick guy. He's just not. He doesn't look like a big athletic workout guy. He looks like
a yoga guy.
Yeah, back then he just looked like a guy who hangs out at the bar. He didn't even look like that's why people liked him, because he looked like a regular guy. He wore jeans in the ring, and he just looked like a regular guy. So this, though, he starts pounding on him. Apparently, he went right for his eye and was trying to pluck his eyeball out. That's what he was trying to do to Paige.
Take his fucking eyes out.
Which is the old wrestler trick.
Yeah.
That's the old wrestler trick. When you fight a guy in a bar or something, you pop his eye out. Fight's over. There you go. Why bother with anything more than that? So he's trying to pop his eye out, and apparently that, they got pulled apart before his eyeball came loose. So that's good for that's good for old DDP there. Terry Taylor, who's the Red Rooster in the WWE there, he ended up, he's behind the scenes there. And at one point on a Thunder, he told Scott Steiner that he's going to have to lose a match on today. You're losing. So he blew up and threatened to kick Terry Taylor's ass and told him to get away from him and told him he's going to beat him up. Okay. So can't do that. So he gets suspended again. He gets him sent home with pay, though. He's suspended with pay.
Yeah.
October 2000, for no reason whatsoever, he comes out on a Monday Nitro just walking a giant tiger.
Where'd he get a tiger?
Not part of the gimmick, not part of any feud. Nobody has like a tiger. Just thought it was cool. That's all. He said that he felt like doing it because, he said, what the hell? He saw a tiger at one point and thought it was neat. So he decided to ask for a tiger, and then they had to, over the course of one day, procure this man a tiger that wouldn't maul thousands of people that are within mauling range of him.
That's going in our rider from now on.
Tiger? Got to have a tiger. We will walk out on stage with a tiger, and then the tiger will be taken away.
Need a tiger and a tiger handler. I carry it out. You come get it.
And that's, by the way, he had a handler with him, too. They both had a leash on the tiger.
What the fuck?
Imagine if that tiger freaked out from the pyro or the weird lights or something,
or
jumped
all the
over
fucking people,
jumps over the fucking railing, and then there's 15,000 people in a tight area with a tiger loose. Think about the goddamn tragedy that could have taken place there. The fucking carnage that would have happened. Before they'd be able to get that tiger, trank it, and it would maul hundreds of people. There'd be little kids,
limbs. Yes,
little kids with like legs missing below the knee.
There's
just
a
disturbing.
Face left in that audience somewhere.
It's going to look like a Civil War battlefield when it's done. You know it. So he just walks out with a fucking tiger. And Tony Schiavone, who's the announcer, says, commentator, he says, we've got a tiger here. And guess what? The tiger doesn't want to be here. Because the tiger looked like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
There was a pause, and then he said, only Scott Steiner, and then kept going because he's fucking insane. Yep, no explanation, no nothing. Why he brought a tiger? He said that there had been an animal trainer at a WCW house show that had a tiger, and he saw it and thought it was pretty cool and thought it would make a cool entrance. I guess that the house show, Rey Mysterio Jr. was almost eaten by the tiger when I guess he's wearing zebra stripes as his outfit, which I guess is not a good combination around the tiger. And then he squatted down to eye level with the height of the tiger, and the tiger wanted to eat him because he's little too.
Thought you were a baby zebra. The vulnerable ones.
So aren't you cute? I'm going to eat you. Here's another crazy promo. Let's just give another one here. Quote, "That's right, Mean Gene. I don't lay down for nobody. Whether I leave here a world champion tonight, it don't matter because it's not going to change my focus on getting even with Goldberg for fractioning my face." He said fractioning, not fracturing, by the way. And at Fall Brawl, Goldberg, I'm going to get even with you for my face, and I'm going to prove to you that I'm the man with the largest arms in the world. I'm the genetic freak, and size does matter. That statement, Mean Gene, comes true whether I'm in the ring or out of the ring. See, when I have my freaks horizontal, they understand size, they appreciate size, and they know that size does matter.
Scott loves to fuck.
He loves to. And they know they don't have to wait for the Earth to rotate on a 47-degree axis so the stars can touch the sky and create an equinox so they can see the Big Dipper. Whoa.
What is happening?
Is any of that line up? Any astronomy people? Does any of that line up? Probably not.
It feels like it's just another euphemism for dick.
It is a euphemism for dick, but he's saying that this is, you can see oh, wow. No. All they got to do is call the Big Poppa. Now he's Big Poppa Pump, but I mean, because I'm the man with the Big Dipper.
Okay. It's all dick. All dick all the time.
And satisfaction's coming when I go behind and do the bump and grind. And it's only a matter of time before they call me Big Bad Booty Daddy. He's saying this on live television.
What is happening?
What are you talking about, sir? Sir, you are 40. Calm down.
My uncle said the same thing at Thanksgiving, but he was very drunk.
He was very
What's
drunk.
Your excuse, Scott?
And we took him into a room and he laid down after that. Didn't wake up till everybody left. It was wild. So Goldberg realized this. I only care about two things in this world, my freaks and my peaks. And then he flexes his arm.
Okay.
My freaks and my peaks, baby. And when I beat your bald ass down at Fall Brawl and I'm about to put you in the Steiner recliner, I'm going to whisper in your ear, size does matter, bitch. What the fuck just happened? On television.
Good. Pretty good.
February 2001, this is going to score him a misdemeanor assault charge, this thing that goes on here. He's in the ring. This is so fucking stupid. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Mind you, on probation for aggravated assault. That could land him in jail for 30 years.
Yeah.
This fucking moron. A spokesman for WCW would later say that there's a plan where the guy he's fighting, supposed to hurt the guy, and then an EMT is supposed to come in and help him.
Yeah.
Not Scott, the guy that he hurt.
Right.
Now, the EMT that they're using is a real EMT who's just coming in and acting like he's helping the guy, but that's the extent of it. Otherwise, he's a real EMT that they're just having. It's kind of like when they get the cops to arrest Stone Cold. Those are real cops. He's not really under arrest. That's how it works.
Okay.
So, but Stone Cold's not allowed to cold cock those cops. That's not part of the deal. That's punching a police officer.
He doesn't know he's not a wrestler.
Oh, he knows what's going on, but he doesn't care. So the EMT comes in the ring to help this guy because it's supposed to make Scott look like such a badass that he beat this guy down so much that he needs medical attention on the spot. And Scott fucking kicks the EMT.
Kicked him,
shoved him out of the ring. Okay? He's not in on it, this guy. He just came in to go pretend to do this thing, and he gets beat up by some giant fucking guy. So when questioned about it, Scott says, I thought he was in on it. I thought he knew. And they're like, he's not a wrestler. You know who this is. He's a fucking EMT. That's ridiculous. So the EMT, Randall D. Mankins, decided to press charges.
Yeah.
And Scott is served with a warrant the next day. He's arrested for it. And there you go. The deputies did say he was very, very nice when they arrived to get him.
Mankins. Oh, I thought it was Mankind.
No, Mankind. See,
it's so easy to mix it up. You couldn't find it.
Up. Yeah. Please, by the way, do not let Dr. Goldberg treat me because I'm going to whisper in his ear, size does matter, bitch. I can't help it. So no Dr. Goldberg. Which I understand it's going to be hard. We get it. Yeah.
This is WCW's fault. I thought he was a wrestler. What
do you want from me?
It happens.
So somehow that ends up going away. I feel like WCW got this guy to drop the charges. Right. They were like, listen, he's going to go to prison unless you drop these charges. So tell you what,
this
one of those.
Real bad for us and him.
Fuck yeah. So April 2001, WWF buys WCW. That was the big deal. Mm-hmm. On the last Nitro, Scott Steiner, who was the current WCW champion, heavyweight champion, loses it, drops the belt to Booker T that night on the last one. Then they're going to go. They don't know what they're going to do because he doesn't want to go to WWF. I'm unsure if he doesn't want to go there or they don't want him. Yeah. There's a thing with these guys at the end where they had contracts with AOL because AOL had bought Turner. So they had contracts with AOL, all the WCW guys. Some of these guys had contracts that ran for another 2-3 years beyond when they got bought by WWF. Mm-hmm. Now, they have a choice at that point. If WWF wanted these guys, they could null and void that contract and go work for WWF and make whatever they make.
And create a contract with them.
Or they could sit on their asses for 2 years and collect all their fucking money from AOL. Yeah. So a lot of guys did that. A lot of guys said, why would I give up $1 million guaranteed to maybe make $300,000 and actually have to work when I can sit here and rest? So that's what he did. He just kind of, he doesn't go right away. He lets his contract expire. And he's talking about maybe going to Japan. He likes Japan. He said, me and my brother enjoyed our stay in Japan. The people there treated us with respect, unlike the white trash here. So, yeah, I might go back.
Okay.
There you go. Now, Bischoff talks about what could have been about Scott Steiner if he wasn't a lunatic, essentially. He says the Steiner brothers, he said that they were more compelling as single stars. And he said it proved true toward the end of WCW when Scott emerged as a single star. I think Scott had the potential, had things turned out differently for WCW. I think Scott could have been the guy for a while. So this was when Eric Bischoff was trying to buy WCW rather than WWF. He said he could have been our guy. He said he got that good. He found himself. His crazy, nonsensical promos started becoming so entertaining that people would look forward to them. They didn't even make sense. They were awesome. Yeah, obviously. Guys in the back look forward to them. When the guys who were working on the roster are anxiously awaiting one of their peers' performances on the mic, you know it's probably pretty good. Scott got to that point. But you're right. We should have probably pulled the trigger on splitting them sooner than later. It would have been more valuable for both of them and the company. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Now he's kind of in limbo, not really anywhere for the first time in a long time. So what the fuck is he going to do now? He's just sitting there in Michigan probably, or probably Florida, I would assume.
Likely, yeah.
Sitting in Florida, being blonde and huge. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, he thinks about it. He asks his friends, nobody knows. He asks his brother, nobody knows. So he turns to the one place that he doesn't usually turn, but he feels like it's his last resort.
Desperation. Yeah.
Desperation. He puts his hands together and he just prays. And he said, God, give me guidance. Tell me, where should I be? At that moment, the clouds part, the harps play, the angels sing, and there before him is, of course, God. And he says, how is it you've come to arrive here? What the hell is wrong with you? Honestly, bro, like this is, I don't make that what you've done to yourself. I gave you gifts, okay? Yeah. I did. You are a pretty good athlete and everything. This here, I don't do that. This is crazy. This is aftermarket, all this. I don't know. This is like putting an exhaust pipe on like a Honda Accord. You're like, why would you do that, man? It's like, it's a Honda Accord. You know what I mean? You don't just put a big, that's what you're doing now. And this is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm upset with you, number one. Your mullet was flowing. I did give you that. So I would like you to, if you could bring back the flowing mullet that I have wanted you to achieve since a young age and lose about 80 pounds and keep calling people white trash, because I'm telling you now, I try to get the message out, but they don't listen. You're right. You're right, man. Listen, man, when you're right, you're right. You know what I mean? And you're correct. And you live in Florida, so it's hard to avoid. So I will work on destroying Florida, wiping it from the earth, but so it doesn't look bad. I have to do it like one hurricane at a time. It's very slow. It's a slow process, man. So we'll try, though. Oh, God, I'm very busy. I don't know why I spent so much time with you. I have to go now. Poof, in a cloud and harps and everything else. God's gone. And Scott just takes it as a reassurance that he's on the right path.
He's really doing it.
He said, God told me not to do any of the things I'm doing, but the fact that he paid attention to me means that I'm important.
It's everything.
So late 2002, he goes into WWE, signs a 3-year contract with them, and I don't care about any of this era fucking WWE. I really just don't. To me, it's bad. I don't like it. It's when it got cheesy. Everybody's talking about his steroid use, and he's asked to undergo a steroid test and famously said that he'll do it as long as him and Triple H go in a limo together to take one together. He goes, if he takes one, I'll take one with him.
Yeah.
Funny, no one ended up taking one.
Why wouldn't Triple H go, I wonder?
Triple H was ridiculous. Like, Steiner was always a big muscular guy, but he just got, like, ridiculous. Like, Triple H was a little thin guy. You, like, look at him in, like, 95. Yeah. He's a little thin guy. And then he's fucking jacked with his huge, I don't even know what these muscles are that go,
the fucking wings.
Go from your shoulder. Yeah, what are those? They're huge.
I don't know what those wings are.
They're called steroids in your body. Because that's the only people that have those are steroid users.
Our body shouldn't have that muscle. What would it protect?
No, that's what I mean. That protects the steroid organs. That's all it is.
It covers like the back part of your ribs, and that's it. It's like your oyster. It's huge.
It's so stupid. He quote wins the Wrestling Observer Award for worst worked match of the year in 2003. Worst versus Triple H at Royal Rumble. Now he ends up leaving WWE in 2004, and here's his thoughts on it. Quote, "Yeah, when I left WWE, I had surgery on my foot. I had drop foot." What the fuck is drop foot?
Oh, that's when you drag that thing.
Where my foot was totally paralyzed.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a tendon transfer and got 9 screws in my foot. They broke my foot, took a bone graft from my hip and put it in my foot and put a plate in there. So now my foot is not 100%, but it works, so I can wrestle a lot better than I did. They said, he said he was then asked, were you in constant pain the whole time you were there? And he said, that's why I really didn't care a whole lot up there. When your mind is concentrating on pain 24 hours a day, which I was, I'd like anybody to try and wrestle with one foot. If I moved my foot, it would just flop uncontrollably. I had total paralysis down there. Well, maybe that's why you have the worst match that year, because you have one foot. But then again, Kerry Von Erich only had literally one fucking foot. The other one wasn't even a real foot, for fuck's sake, and he was out there doing great.
Just a boot on his leg.
That's pretty impressive. So he said, and it causes pain up your legs and into your hips. It was hard. I was actually going to retire. I didn't want to go up to WWE, but they offered me more money than I was asking for, so I took it. Thinking that they would want to do business. Shoot, they paid Bill Goldberg more than they paid me just to bury him, too. It made 0 sense whatsoever.
He was literally a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
That's right. No wonder why he's the worst at it that year.
Fascinating.
So he undergoes foot surgery in 2004, getting all these screws and all that kind of shit. He's in a cast for 8 months.
Jesus.
Fuck. He does some indie work after that. Wrestles with his brother, Rick a little bit. Does all of that shit. December 2005. He's involved in an incident that we've talked about not once but twice.
Okay.
Because both the other people in it have episodes as well.
Yeah.
This is when Scott, Lex Luger, and Buff Bagwell were removed from a flight that was going from Minneapolis to Winnipeg. Remember this?
Yeah.
The three of them for all causing a disturbance on the plane. He loves to do shit. Some people do shit that's like easy to hide or whatever. He's like, bumping a Georgia Transportation Department worker with your truck is the lamest way to get 30 years in prison really on the face of the earth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He takes the smallest offense and makes it the most punishable by the dumb time he chooses to do it.
Yeah.
Planes, on the highway, in the ring on camera where everyone can see it. He's not very smart.
This is 2004?
5.
Yeah, it's far too fresh at this point.
You can't do this shit. Yeah, so they end up being detained for several hours. Finally, Steiner and Bagwell are released, and Luger ended up being held without bail because he had drugs on him and all sorts of other shit. 2006, he goes to TNA, and I have zero interest in TNA shit. Sorry, wrestling people that like TNA. I can't even. When I look it up, I get fucking glossed over. I just hate it. It's so boring. June 3rd, 2007, during a show in San Juan, Puerto Rico, he is teamed up with Robert Roode, who is Rick's kid, and they're fighting Jeff Jarrett and Apollo. During the match, Apollo kicks Steiner in the throat, and Steiner finishes the match, but once he gets backstage, he tells some of the doctors that he feels some kind of bleeding in the back of his throat. They told him he was fine.
Yeah.
So he went back to his room and tried to eat some ice cream to, make his throat feel better. But he couldn't get it down his throat because it was all swollen. So he was just in pain.
Ice cream? The shit's liquid.
Still couldn't get it down. So then he started getting shortness of breath and he started coughing up blood. So he called an ambulance. They take him in. And, he's all fucked up. He has a torn trachea.
Oh, my God.
The rupture extended to his chest. And they told him they thought he might die at that moment in time. So he was trying to get out of Puerto Rico. He said that a friend of his owned a private jet and he was going to fly him back to the States and all this shit. But the doctor said, you're going to fucking die if you leave the hospital, stupid.
Oh, my God.
Can't do that. Internal bleeding, not good. So, they said if your lung would have collapsed, they said later on when they found out what was wrong with him. So he was put in a medically induced coma, taken to the ICU and put on a ventilator as they cut into him and sewed up his trachea.
Wow.
He woke up 2 days later, had some swelling and shit like that. So he couldn't fly right away, they told him, because of all the work he had.
Shit.
So he takes a cruise ship back to the U.S.
Wow.
I just picture at some point, some fucking sad, middling comedian had to fucking go up there for a convalescing, hurting fucking Scott Steiner and make jokes and hope he didn't get beat up afterwards.
And hope he doesn't. Well, the good news is he's not going to laugh too hard to tear his larynx again.
No, he's not going to do any of that shit. He said that he had gratitude toward the doctors in Puerto Rico and all that kind of shit. Within a month, he was wrestling again. So. Wow. He said, I think ever since I had the accident in Puerto Rico, there was so much trauma to my body, I haven't been able to really get as lean as I'd like. But it's starting to come around. This is what he said 10 years later. He said, there was just so much swelling it was hard to come back from. And there's still a little bit of pain. My muscle back there doesn't work entirely correctly because my lat was sliced in half. Other than that, I feel pretty good. So, he said he didn't realize the problem until later on in the night. He said, I got kicked pretty hard in the throat, but I finished the match. I felt like there was bleeding back there, but the EMTs in the building said nothing was wrong. I actually went back to my hotel. I thought it was just swelled up, so I tried to eat some ice cream to bring the swelling down. And, that's what he said. Started spitting up blood, rushed him to the hospital. He said, I've been in jail before, and it was like the gates of the jail at the hospital. There were 20-foot-high steel gates, and there were armed guards outside the hospital.
Jesus.
The fuck? They opened the door, which creaked, and then they slammed it shut. I walked in there, and there was literally people lined up, bleeding, screaming down the corridors. Yeah. Nobody was speaking English, and it was kind of freaky.
Sounds like a hospital.
That's a hospital. Sounds like Phoenix, any hospital in Phoenix at any time.
County hospitals.
Yeah, everywhere you go. I was actually at the same hospital where Bruiser Brody died. So I was kind of freaked out. I called a couple of my buddies because I wanted to get out of there. I came in and they took some scans and made me drink some stuff to see what the damage was. That was brutal trying to drink that stuff. They finally found that I did have a torn trachea. The bad part about it was torn in my chest. They told me I had 5 hours to live. Wow. The air that was supposed to be going into my lungs was now going into my skin. That turns poisonous and then you die. I don't know the medical truth behind that, but it sounds logical, I guess.
I mean, judging by his review of what they did to his foot, he's not real good with medical stuff.
I don't think he took the medical program at Michigan. I'm just going to say here. I don't know about the air doesn't go into your lungs but goes into your skin. You'd die quicker than 5 hours if the air wasn't going into your lungs. That's where the sacs are that take the oxygen and the shit to your brain and make you be able to do things. Right. Heart pumping, all that kind of stuff.
How dislocated is his throat that it's plugged into his skin now?
Fuck, his trachea goes far. It's got a deep-rooted trachea. It goes all the way to his asshole. So what the fuck? He said that, they told me I had 5 hours to live, blah, blah, blah. I didn't really want to believe them. Well, yeah. My buddy owns a private jet, and he was going to fly it down. They kind of sensed that I wanted to get out of there. Thank God it didn't happen because my lung would have collapsed, and they couldn't have saved me because my trachea was torn. They put me on some sedatives and kind of calmed me down. I was still fighting it and trying to get out of there because I didn't want to have surgery in Puerto Rico. Finally, a Puerto Rican doctor came in and calmed me down a little bit, but he still sensed I wanted to leave, so he put me under. The next time I woke up, I had been in an induced coma for 2 days because the pain would have been so bad. I felt like I was choking. I felt like I was going to drown because I couldn't get any air.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled the ventilator out of my throat, and I woke up. They told me they cut through my lat, basically split my ribs in half, and then cut through my lung and sewed up my trachea. Jesus. They put a tube in my lung to drain for 2 weeks. I just swelled up. I looked brutal, like a 300-pound fat guy. It was the most swelling I've ever experienced. I still couldn't fly, so I had to take a cruise ship home. And when I went to get on the cruise ship, and no cruise ship, a guy jumped off and committed suicide. So the FBI boarded the ship and had to circle it for like 17 hours. So I had to wait an extra day in Puerto Rico. Got on a cruise ship. It took me another week to get home. I took my tour bus up to where I live and tried to recover. Jesus Christ, that's a mess. So they said, does it make you not want to go to Puerto Rico? And he said, oh, no, the Puerto Rican people and the doctors were great. The nurses were fantastic. Other than the language barrier, it was fine. He said, here's one funny story. I told you that I swelled up real bad, and my testicles swelled up really bad.
Everything's about his dick.
Everything's about my dick. I literally had to carry them in my hand to go to the bathroom. That's swollen.
Yeah.
If you're afraid the skin's going to fucking pull and break, that's a problem. Some of the nurses weren't so easy to look at. Oh, are you kidding me? Well, one day, one of the most beautiful nurses I have ever seen walked in. I got up from my wheelchair and turned around, and she was beautiful. I dropped my drawers and said, quote, are my testicles supposed to be this big? She ran out of the room, and I never saw her again.
Yeah.
The first thing you say to her is, look at my balls. Are they this big? Yeah. Holy fucking shit, man.
It's kind of an assault that, I don't know if it's an assault, but it's certainly fucking scary.
Holy fuck. That's fucking wild. They talk about the WWE. He said, do you think it was as successful as it could have been, your run there?
Yeah.
He said, well, if you look back, everyone from WCW got treated like garbage, from Goldberg to Kevin Nash to Scott Hall. You have to remember, you were there. We beat WWE for 82 weeks, and it's 83, I think. And Vince McMahon obviously took that personally, so he wanted to bring everyone in that was on top in WCW and bury them. Kevin Nash is supposed to be the best friend of Triple H, but he got the same thing. He won the first title match against Triple H by DQ, then lost the second one. I can't take that really personally because Triple H treated supposedly his best friend the same way. I'll tell you right now, people up there are miserable. Both times I went up there, it was the most screwed up place I've ever been. Okay. That's what he says. So he wants you to feel bad for him. He got kicked in the throat. Nurses won't look at his balls.
Right.
Look, poor me.
Yeah.
I went up there. They screwed me up. My lat's cut in half. I can't get down with the hoochies as much as I would like to. You know how it is.
Yeah.
You feel bad for him. You almost feel terrible for him, but not as bad as you feel for Scott Steiner, account manager at Master Electronics in New York City. Scott Steiner, executive vice president and managing director at Dentsu in New York City.
Whatever that is.
I don't know. Scott Steiner, assistant superintendent, Kinder Morgan Argo Terminal, Greater Chicago area.
Wow.
Scott Steiner, marketing and advertising executive, New York City. Scott Steiner, safety manager at AutoZone Distribution Center, Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Scott Steiner, president and chief executive officer at Phoebe Putney Health System in Albany, Georgia. And Scott Rex Steiner.
What?
Accounting professional, Millbrae, California.
Unbelievable.
Spelled the same and everything. So they talk about that was screwed up there. He says, was it worse than WCW was screwed up? Well, up there. And Scott says, oh, my God, it's not even close. You got Triple H, who's sleeping with the boss's daughter. He's married to Stephanie. Yeah. She thinks she's the greatest and he's the greatest. He's in the production meetings and in the booking meetings. You mark my words. He will break Ric Flair's record for world championships because they're both cut from the same mold. They're both marks for the belt. It will happen, and it's bull. I think Dave Meltzer wrote that every time Triple H is champion, ratings go down, pay-per-view buys go down. It's a fact. But that's what happens when you're sleeping with the boss's daughter. And that's the one thing that was worse than going up there the second time. She was involved, and the only reason she's involved is because she was part of the Lucky Sperm Club. That's her only qualification.
Oh my God.
I mean, and she's been around the business since she was 2. I mean, that was Vince's only qualification.
But why
too.
was she there, James? Because of the Lucky Sperm Club.
True. Actually, his dad made Vince fucking work. Vince had to go to Cape Cod or something and make some terrible event where no one came. He had to make that a success before his dad would let him promote other shit. Like, he had to prove himself. Yeah. He says, then the interviewer tells Scott that he's a big Scott Steiner fan. And Scott's response is this, quote, "Well, I guess if you like to look at gay magazines that he's posed in and watch him dance around in chaps like one of the Village People or a Chippendale, if you're a fan, more power to you, baby. Personally, I think he's a freaking homosexual."
What does that mean?
I don't know. Well, you want to not know what the fuck he means a little more?
Yeah.
In TNA, he cuts a promo about a match he's going to do. It's a 3-way match with, I think it's supposed to be, I can't remember who it's supposed to be. I think it's Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, I know, is in it. Either way, it's a 3-way match, and he comes out and says this. This is fucking wild. He's got little Petey Pump, Petey Williams, next to him here. Okay. He says, "You know they say all men are created equal, but you know his dick's going to come up at some point when he starts like this. But I scared a nurse away with the size of my balls." He says, "But you look at me and you look at Samoa Joe and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak. I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best to beat me. Then you add in Kurt Angle into the mix, the chances of winning go drastically down. See, the 3-way at Sacrifice, you got 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me and he's not even going to try. Okay. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning Sacrifice. What?
Some good math.
We need mathematicians. We need medical experts. We need astrologers. We need so many experts to go over his statements here. But then you take my 75% chance of winning. I thought it was 60. Okay. He said, and then you add 66 2/3%, and I got a 141 2/3 chance of winning in Sacrifice. See, Samoa Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at Sacrifice.
It's not bad. It's a good promo, but it really builds it and tells you how he's going to win. But holy shit, the math is crazy.
That is fucking wild.
My eyes
Jesus.
are spinning.
That is crazy shit. February 2009, he gets a ticket for going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. That's all I got on him there. Mm-hmm. February 2010, TNA releases him.
Uh-oh.
He does some indie shit. He beats Brutus Beefcake to become the Canadian Wrestling International's first heavyweight champion. Wow. Wrestles a bit in Europe around. He becomes the Dutch Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion.
Oh.
He pounded the Swiss Miss Girl into submission, took her hot chocolate, and now he's the champion. He took her wooden shoes and he left.
Smashed her with a St. Pauli girl.
Yep, that's it. He grabbed her clogs and he took off. So he did that. He goes to the Puerto Rican promotion, the WWC. He's there for a while. None of that matters. 2011, he's back in TNA.
Okay.
Back in TNA. And people are asking him, are you bitter about everything that's gone on? And he says, quote, I have nothing to be bitter about. I've made a lot of money, and more importantly, I've saved a lot of money. I'm not bitter. I love this business, and that's why I'm still in it. I'm just telling you the way it is, man. I've seen it with my own eyes. There's no way I could be jealous because there's no way I would want their careers. For one thing, I couldn't be Triple H because there's no way I could have had sex with China. And he was doing that before she even got face reconstruction. There has only been 2 people in the history of the Howard Stern show where they had them go to the bathroom to make sure they were women, China and Nicole Bass, and she was on the show after the face reconstruction.
Why would he do that?
Good God. Look at Triple H's career before he got started, having sex with the boss's daughter and all. He lost to the Ultimate Warrior in 30 seconds. He was losing to guys like Alex Wright in WCW. He lost to one of the Godwins in a pig slop match. And then all of a sudden, he's having sex with the boss's daughter, and he's the toughest guy in the world. I'm not the only guy who thinks it. It's no secret what Kurt Angle thought of Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Here's one story I got from Kurt. Triple H was trying to block Kurt Angle from winning the world title. He said in a meeting, I think Kurt Angle's too small. And Jerry Briscoe stood up and said, well, what do you think would happen if you guys fought for real? And Triple H sat down and shut his mouth and they ran with it. Yeah, everybody knows Kurt Angle could rip people in half. There's not a surprise there. He said, Shawn Michaels is one of those wisecracking guys who would say some smart comment to you, but then if you face him, he would run and cry somewhere. That's exactly what happened one time when he was cutting down the Harris brothers. I think it was Don Harris. Finally, he had enough, waited till Shawn Michaels got in the room, kicked everybody else out, shut the door, grabbed him by the neck, and was going to pound the heck out of him. A tear came to his eye. He turned around, started laughing, and walked out. That's Shawn Michaels in a nutshell. Okay. As for Ric Flair, I could go on and on. I was there one time. This is great. When we were doing TV tapings at Center Stage in Atlanta, Rick Rude followed Flair around for about an hour and just totally blistered him. He told him he looked like hell, and he was friends with the booker, totally blistering him. Finally, Flair had enough, left, and did not come back to Center Stage until after the tapings had started. People think I'm making this stuff up. Wahoo McDaniel could not stand him. He told me one time Blackjack Mulligan knocked Flair out with one punch. Blackjack Mulligan could knock anybody out with one punch. He's 6'10", weighed 350 pounds. He's a huge person, huge guy. Jim Crockett one time owned the NWA. I always liked David and Jackie Crockett, but I only met Jim once or twice, and everyone thought he was a jerk. But Flair had him as the best man at his wedding. Who has the promoter as his best man? Yeah. It'd be like having a comedy booker as your best man. The fuck are you doing? Wahoo said back in the day when there were territories all around the country, one of the best ways the boys made sure they wouldn't get fired and wouldn't have to worry about a job from week to week is to borrow money from the promoter. That way the promoter couldn't fire them because he wanted to get his money back out of them. Right. Wahoo said Flair had tax problems and Crockett bailed him out, so there's no way he was going to get rid of Flair. Wahoo didn't like him, did not like his wife. He called her the rat from Raleigh. Jesus Christ. And when I was in WWE, it was right after Andre the Giant died. We were doing a Raw in New Jersey. I was talking to Rene Goulet, who was an agent then. It's one of Andre the Giant's best friends, too, and a wrestler. Everybody was pretty bummed out because everybody loved Andre. I only met him once, so I didn't know him that well. Flair came by and did his usual woo. I swear to God, Rene was so angry he wanted to punch him out. He said Flair lived like 2 hours from where Andre was buried in North Carolina. He said, that piece of garbage, he wouldn't drive 2 hours to pay his respects to Andre. He wanted to kill him. I could go on and on.
Okay.
Flair was messed up on so many different levels. Yeah. I could go on and on. Okay, so I guess that means you're done? No. Yeah. One time in Baltimore, Sting was going to beat Flair for the belt. So Flair pulled Sting aside, and Sting thinks he's going to tell him something about the match or give him some big knowledge. And this is what he said to him, and Sting could not believe it. Flair said, when you get married, it's a big deal. When you have kids, it's a big deal. But there's nothing like winning the world title. Sting came back and grabbed my brother and I and Lex Luger and said, you're not going to believe what Flair just told me. That's how messed up he was. Because it's fake.
Yeah.
Fuck are you talking about?
It's all bullshit, man.
So then they're kind of like, well, are there anybody that you do have respect for? It seems like you don't respect anybody. And he says the main guy you have to have respect for is Hogan. Hogan was the man. I remember when I was in WWE, Chief Jay Strongbow used to call him the Golden Goose. He always said he could lay a golden egg. That was the respect that Hogan had because he drew. The greatest is the one who draws the money. Would you rather be a 16-time world champion like Flair or be like Bruno, who had a 10-year run like he had and always sold out Madison Square Garden? That's respect, man. You have to respect guys that set attendance records and drew a lot of money, like Stone Cold Steve Austin and, of course, The Rock. Not only for what he's done in wrestling, but what he's doing in the movies, too, which is unprecedented, where a wrestler's been so successful in Hollywood. One of the guys that I respect the most is Kurt Angle. He's an amateur wrestler. Mm-hmm. When he left WWE, I think a lot of people thought he was the best wrestler there. Not only that, he's an Olympic champion. He said... they said one of the biggest gripes with Flair is that he's cutthroat backstage with politics. He said a lot of people say Hogan's worse with politics. Is he worse? He says, oh, God, no. Flair was 10 times worse.
Oh?
Hogan was a man about it. If Hogan didn't like you, he wouldn't bullshit you. He just wouldn't talk to you. He wasn't like one of these guys that would come up to you and be all ha-ha and tell you you're the greatest, then he could go behind closed doors and stab you in the back. Hogan had the best contract because he had creative control, but he had the respect, man, and you got to give him that. Hogan was the master. He went up there, and so he talks about Hogan. Now, I tell you this because then he's released by TNA, okay? So this is when Hogan and Bischoff had come in to run TNA, help run it. Hours after he gets released, he tweets this, Scott Steiner. Can somebody send TNA's booking team of Pritchard, Hogan, and Bischoff videos from somebody here? Booking Hogan in a sex tape won't help ratings. What an embarrassment to TNA Spike TV. Brother, wait. His ex-wife said he was gay, so who's the guy in the sex tape? That's what he tweets.
Okay.
Hogan tweets this a couple days later.
Yeah.
Wow, do I feel like a fool. I knew Steiner came to TNA the last tapings, then was asked to leave. I heard the news and I was lobbying hard to bring him back the right way because I see money and talent in him. I had no idea he felt the way about me because he's always really nice to me and my family. I guess I was really wrong. At least I know who he really is now. So then he tweets about Bischoff here. Instead of getting rid of the guys who are the problem, they keep having Hogan and Bischoff. He keeps calling him Bischoff. He calls him Bischoff every time, which is what they've always called him for 30 years. To try and save money elsewhere, then no longer fly in Taz and Tenay for the tapings, do the voiceovers, blah, blah, blah. As I tweeted 3 weeks ago, Jeremy Borash was the only other guy that Bischoff ripped on social media, which a lot of guys came to his defense and called Eric a piece of shit. So he realized he got heat, so that's where the segment came from. Where's the thing with Hogan? Okay, here he goes. Sorry. He goes, Bischoff said in an interview that I'm going through a midlife crisis and that I'm a drug abuser. Pretty stupid statement since his business partner, Hulk Hogan, recently did a sex tape and he's over 60. And Hogan testified under oath that he did steroids. What the fuck, Bischoff? How stupid are you? In these interviews, you can't deny what I've been saying, so you say stupid shit and bury yourself in Hogan. So he's just saying all this stuff. Then he said, Hogan did an interview saying I must be unhappy in my life. Fuck you, Hogan. I'm very happy in my life. This is like Ty from Love During Lockup.
Pretty good.
Breaks her own furniture because she's so mad. Then screams, I'm not a hostile person, as she's trying to fight a woman while breaking her own furniture. I'm not a hostile person.
You got to respect Hogan, James.
Right?
He's the best one.
He's the best. I'm not the one who went on Larry King crying like a bitch and saying that you put a gun in your mouth and was going to pull the trigger. Quit lying because nobody believes your bullshit. You three assholes write the show and you decide who's on the show and stuff with Storm is bullshit too. Storm and I talked over match and the finish, which I didn't change. We both went to get in gear, and as I was changing, I told him I wasn't in the match anymore. I went back to, okay, it's all right. I don't care about that. Blah, 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 blah. You but you don't take my word on it. Ask Storm. He will say the same thing. You're a lying piece of shit. You disrespect the business and everybody in TNA, and you think it's weird that I want to knock you unconscious. Fuck you. Your day is coming, motherfucker. Pritchard is going to use open fight night to bring in somebody else's son. We'll let you know when I see him. Remember, you see Hogan or 609 Bischoff, change channel, wait 5 minutes and turn back. If you fans, If you fans use your power, we can save TNA. Nielsen rating system monitors every show and can't be ignored. Okay. So the feud escalates from there. He then says, Steiner says, haven't tweeted lately because I got a letter from a lawyer representing Hogan and Bischoff basically saying they take my tweets seriously, and if the threats continue, they will take it to law enforcement. Really, Hogan, my tweets scare you? I've said worse in interviews on TV, LOL. I want to thank you because your actions speak louder than any words I could have spoken. Sorry for scaring you. Maybe I'll challenge you to a game of checkers. Then Hogan said, tried to be cool, not only a clown, but also a liar. Those weren't my lawyers. They were TNA's lawyers. Well, I guess it's time to call my guys in. I really hope he saved his money or is making tons from the independence he's working because it's going to get expensive. Maybe he's smart enough to at least figure out when it starts getting real. What a shame. What a waste of great talent. But you can't tell an idiot they're an idiot. It's really sad when you thought someone was really cool. So this goes back and fucking forth. Oh, by the way, Brooke Hogan gets involved in it, the daughter.
Does she?
Yeah. Steiner claimed that TNA signed Brooke Hogan, who was at the TV tapings and has appeared a couple of times. Steiner claimed that the locker room's upset by Brooke being signed, so Brooke says this, quote, a certain wrestler with a stupid mesh hat, that's a Shane thing, needs to shut the fuck up. Number one, stop overcompensating for your, quote, little problem.
Oh.
That's funny. Number two, just call him a little dick motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, act like a damn gentleman. Number three, I'd make more money on my back than you ever would get in your whole career. Shut up. You look like a toddler. P.S. LOL, if he's such a big, scary man, don't block someone who's never tweeted you. Mind you, I've only been kind to this completely incoherent shell of a man. You really need to call people out to get noticed? Well, you did, and now everyone can see how desperate you truly are. Stop talking crap about my family. Hashtag Turd Club.
Hashtag.
Which is the only reason I read that was to give you the hashtag Turd Club.
She hit him with a hashtag, and it happened to be Turd Club.
Turd Club. TNA then takes legal action against Scott Steiner and his remarks. They filed a verified complaint in a Nashville court seeking an injunction to prevent more disparaging remarks from Steiner, which is stupid. Then they go from that. Then November 5th, 2012, Scott sues TNA.
Yeah.
Over having to wrestle Jeff Hardy in a, quote, reckless, drunken wrestling match. He's saying the TNA owes him money because $750,000 in damages because they made him wrestle a fucked up Jeff Hardy, which we know from that period. Yeah. He was fucked up in the ring a lot. That's the same period where he came out in that one match and had to leave and all that kind of shit. He said he suffered nerve damage in his shoulder and neck due to what he called Hardy's reckless, drunken wrestling. So he does that. He then files a second lawsuit for TNA for allowing Jeff Hardy to wrestle under the influence as well. So he gets into that. Then he threatens Hulk Hogan indirectly.
Yeah.
It's Hulk Hogan's being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Yep. So what they do is at the San Jose airport, which is where everybody's flying into for this ceremony, Scott Steiner approaches Hogan's then wife, Jennifer, and tells her that he's going to kill Hulk Hogan.
Oh, my Scott, no, you can't say that.
In the airport. Yeah, I guess that's how it goes. The Hogans contacted police, and they're investigating Steiner for felony terrorist threats. Steiner said, typical Hogan, he's just a punk. He said, I'm not going to dignify Hogan's lies. I didn't put my hands on her. So he said, I didn't even tell her that. He said, I told her Hulk introducing Macho Man into the Hall of Fame is bullshit. He hated him. Everybody knew that.
Why did you tell her that?
Yeah, that's wow. So then new details came out about him grabbing her and all this type of shit. I guess surveillance footage came out. TMZ said confirms Jennifer's claims that Steiner confronted her. So, yeah, officials are investigating him for terroristic threats. March 2016, TNA's lawsuit against Scott Steiner is dismissed. Against that, they said that he's not allowed to make disparaging remarks about the company while under contract, but since you released him, it doesn't matter how far his contract ran, you released him. If you don't pay him, you can't tell him what to say. So that's what it is. 2016, he and his wife, you know what they do now, Scott and his wife? Guess. I'll give you a guess.
They had a baby.
No.
They got divorced.
They open up a Shoney's restaurant.
What?
Is that the last thing you'd expect?
A Shoney's. Where, in Oklahoma?
Let's
Where
pop
at?
a Shoney's, Ackworth, Georgia, where they live.
A fucking
They
Shoney's.
open up a Shoney's. He does some advertising. He's in Pittsburgh for, it was Pro Legends of Wrestling night at the Pirates game, Pittsburgh Pirates. They had Kurt Angle, Booker T, Tito Santana, the Nasty Boys, Scott Steiner. I don't know what that has to do with anything. He clotheslined a pierogi.
A guy dressed up as a pierogi?
Yeah, they have a pierogi race, and he clotheslined one of them.
Okay.
So that's
Might
nice.
as well.
2017, he does a Ring Rust radio interview, and he says, I think why the fans could relate to me is because when I went out there, you could tell I was telling the truth. You could tell I wasn't bullshitting and that I was putting it on the line, and if people don't like it, then do something about it. A lot of my frustrations here with management, a lot of my frustrations were with candy asses in wrestling, like guys who weren't tough but try to come across as such. People could really tell how I came out, and in the way I spoke my mind, to the point, direct, and really no bullshit. I think that's why people related to what I was saying.
They related to me because I was honest, and then I went and did fake shit. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I told them honest shit, and then I pretended to suplex a guy, and he let me suplex him. He said, as far as nowadays, I feel sorry for guys, especially what they have to do in the WWE. They're cookie cutters. You got 20, 30 idiot writers, with the two biggest idiots being Stephanie McMahon and Hunter McMahon. Hunter McMahon, she calls him.
Yeah.
He calls him. I say Hunter McMahon because I can't tell which one is the bigger douche, her or him. I'll give him her last name because he's a man without a backbone. So you got these two and 30 writers trying to write for all these guys, and they all got the same mindset, trying to make these characters. When I came up, it was Macho Man and all these other guys. You had to come up with your own stuff. If you didn't come up with your own stuff, you weren't getting over. So he said, nowadays everything is too staged. I agree with that. He said, look at the WWE. Their ratings are horrific. I don't know what to say or what they will do. Go buy another company so you can bury some other guys. They're just a bunch of assholes. When you got competition, it makes people think outside the box. When the ratings go down, you got to reach up to a higher level and come up with different ideas. Nowadays, you can put crap out there, and if it doesn't work, who cares? He gets mad at the 2K17 WWE video game.
He doesn't like the game. What's going on in the game?
Quote, Goldberg is featured in WWE's new video game, and somehow I'm not in the game.
No.
A handful of guys beat Goldberg, and Brock wasn't one of them, but I'm the only one not in the game. I would beat that bald-headed bastard in the virtual world also. Goldberg knows this. Maybe Goldberg didn't want me in the game because he couldn't handle getting beat in two different worlds. What?
Is it Goldberg's game or is it EA Sports,
He had
man?
nothing to do with that at all. 2018, he's back in TNA, by the way, after lawsuits both ways.
He's 60 years old.
Well, yeah, they all said, well, what if we just hire you and give you a contract? Can we forget everything? Sure, that's wrestling. So he goes off on a couple of tangents. He says he doesn't like Mexicans at one point, doesn't like Hulk Hogan. He's doing a promo. It's pretty wild. He said about this Conan is hanging out with him here. Conan is the Mexican guy. He wrestles as a Mexican wrestler. He wrestled in Mexico. He said Conan's going to be doing what he always did in WCW after we finish this match. He's going to be carrying my bags and shining my belt. Maybe my shoes, too. Actually, he might come and cut my grass. I might have all three of them do it, really. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. There will be Conan cutting my grass. I actually have a T-spot on my lawn where I need to be putting, so they better be just right. I hate golf, but they better cut my grass. I have a T thing, so cut it right, but I hate golf.
I hate golf. I just want to watch Mexicans work.
He said, that's what I don't understand. Why does Trump want to keep calling out the Mexicans, but who's going to cut the grass? Seriously. I mean, that's a legitimate question.
What are you doing?
That's a promo for a pay-per-view.
It is.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Stuff, man.
Holy shit. So 2020, he collapses backstage at an Impact show, TNA. He collapsed. Everybody says he had to have the defibrillator to come bring him back to life. He has a heart issue. He goes in and has to have surgery, goes right to the emergency room. So he's, 57 years old and collapsed with a heart problem. Yeah. That's scary. So he's in the emergency room. By the way, Hulk Hogan tweets, "Only love for Scott Steiner. May you recover at Godspeed to only perfect health. God's got you, my brother." HH. Fucking wrestling. 2021. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just all that for this.
All that for that.
Called him the worst thing. Called out your daughter.
And wife.
Yeah.
In an airport.
Grabbed your wife. Yeah.
It's fine now. Yeah. All under the bridge. 2021, back to wrestling again.
Yeah. May as well.
He wrestled Jerry Lawler at the Fitzgerald Casino Event Center in Tunica, Mississippi. To get back in the ring.
Away from the kids, allegedly?
I don't know why Lawler would be in a casino. There's no kids in there. They're not even allowed. Very few teenagers in there. Very few. You can't even get them in there. March 2022, Scott makes an appearance on the Judge Steve Harvey show.
Oh.
Did you know Steve Harvey had a judge show? Because I didn't
know he had a judge show, but I also know that he's not a fucking judge.
Oh God, no! Jesus Christ,
so I don't know what these judgments are barring. I don't know how they
what their legal standing is.
How do you enforce something that Steve Harvey said to do?
I would love it if he took his glasses out, got out a big giant book, and opened it up. Well, it says subsection 24.23 of the law states, and he just knew every legal precedent. How amazing would that be? What? Not even trying. Yeah, not even trying to make jokes. No. Just reading statutes and going, "You should be ashamed of yourself, young man." They're like,
straight up.
Is that it? And he's like, "Court's dismissed. Let's go now." And okay, what a weird show.
Both you write your best five. I'm going to judge who has the best, and then that's the winner of this case.
That's who wins.
You win. But he raped my dog. You win.
You win, I said. God damn it. Don't make me get the textbook. Steiner appeared as a witness on video to defend independent wrestling promoter Ronnie Gossett, who was on trial for $5,000 in unpaid appearance fees. Gossett was sued by Johnny Fairplay, who's an independent wrestler.
Nickname?
Definitely. Yeah. And didn't pay him for 2 canceled indie shows. Scott said, quote, "I'm Big Poppa Pump Scott Steiner," which is how you start your court appearance normally. "And I've worked for Ron many times. I've got Ronnie's back on this one. I worked on 3 of his shows. The first one got canceled. The second one got rained out. This happens in other sports such as football, baseball, and golf. I mean, he can't control the weather. And for the third show, I was paid in full. Johnny needs to stop being a little bitch. If you don't like it, wrestle me for the money."
He said that to Steve Harvey?
He said that to the court. Then Harvey said, quote, "I actually know Big Poppa Pump. I strongly suggest you don't wrestle him for the money," he said to Johnny Fairplay. Then Harvey ruled in favor of the plaintiff, and then the guy has to give him $5,000 in unpaid fees. So he said all that, didn't matter. 2022, they said, "Hey, your old buddy Ric Flair's making a comeback," and he said, "He ain't no old friend of mine. I would kill him in the ring. I'd destroy him. Yeah, everybody wants to see him get beat up."
Well, no, they don't. He's an old man.
He's an old man. Then, in 2022, they offer the Steiner brothers the WWE Hall of Fame spot, which there's a lot attached to that. There's a paycheck. There's some other gigs. There's a bunch of stuff, video deals. There's interview shits. There's all this stuff here. So they said, "Oh my God, is he going to accept it but then run amok in the ceremonies and say crazy shit and everything?" His nephew is in the WWE at this point. Really? Braun Breaker is his nephew. And he says that, you never know with my Uncle Scott. Who knows what's going to happen here? But I guess he was perfectly professional the whole weekend. And he said, quote, "You've got to let it go. You can't harbor all the bad feelings. You've got to grow up."
Also, I've got a weak heart. I can't do much.
I can't do much. I have a weak heart, and I've said terrible things about these people, and they're still going to pay me. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So there he goes, and can't get enough of Scott Steiner? Well, You can follow him on Twitter at Scott Steiner. He's on there. Has 140,000 followers on there. You can go see him December the 2nd through the 4th time at the Greater Columbus Convention Center. He'll be at GalaxyCon Columbus there, participate in a Q&A on the live stage, sign autographs, and take photos with fans. He is.
That's right now.
That's happening right now. And if that's not enough, you need more Scott Steiner. Book him yourself because you can. His agent here, it's mn2s.com. And Sharon Elkabus is his agent. You can contact her, I guess, at 1-305-667-3594. You can book Scott Steiner to, I don't know, he'll do anything you pay him for,
you
I'm
better
sure.
hurry up. He's got a weak heart.
He's got a weak heart. You can tell him to come over, call your kid a little bitch at his birthday party or something.
You've only got a couple of weeks.
You got to, he's gonna touch and go.
That guy's dying in a year.
And we did this episode, which means we've doomed him because we have a weird thing that we do. Now he's going to be dead by the end of the year.
He's in your 2023.
Dead by Christmas.
Deadpool, put him in it. He's going to die next year.
We killed the poor guy. So there he is. That's Scott Steiner. Like I said, if you're like, well, that didn't have as much crime as Camacho. No, it didn't. No. Don't fucking care. Felt like talking about wrestling today.
He's
How about that?
Lunatic.
Don't give a shit. And he's a lunatic. So watch out there. Don't get in his way. Yeah. If you like that show, I don't fucking care. You don't have to tell anybody about it. Whatever. Do what you want to do. ShutUpAndGiveMeMurder.com is where you get all of your tickets and all that shit. Live show. They're up now. 2023 schedule. Get in there. Follow us on social media at Crime and don't even bother. Who gives a shit at this point? Whatever. Don't bother there. But you want to do Patreon. Patreon.com/Crime and Sports is where you get all the bonus material. And Crime and Sports will live on Patreon. And every other week, you're going to get 2 new episodes, 1 Crime and Sports, 1 Small Town Murder. You'll have access to it all and the entire back catalog. This week, anybody $5 or above, you're going to get, first of all, for Crime and Sports, stories from the ABA. Yeah. We heard of the crazy Reggie Harding story of holding his roommate at gunpoint and all that shit. We'll hear more crazy stories of a defunct basketball league from the 70s. Awesome shit. One guy was killed by Idi Amin later on, which is crazy. We'll talk about him just to wet the palate a little bit. Yeah. Then for Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about murders that have been blamed on video games and basically blaming video games for murders. We'll talk about that. That's specific Patreon. Things. Very specific. Oof, I almost lost my, I think I tore my trachea there. That's what that is. So that's patreon.com/Crime and Sports is where you get all of that. And you will get a shout out, which is happening when, Jimmie?
Right now.
Hit me with that list of the people who would never, ever, 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 ever threaten my wife in an airport while saying terrible things about my daughter. Hit me with them right now.
This week's executive producers are Franny Hitsky in Australia, Ty Yeager, I think it's Yeager, it might be Jager. In Texas, Lori Simmons, Natasha Danielle Thompson, Sneer Holloway. Sneer, is that right? No, it's not Sneer. It is Sneer. Holloway? I maybe spelled that wrong. And Cody Leversey, thank you guys so much for everything that you do. Other producers this week are Travis Tessier, happy birthday. Queen Anne and her cat Monkey, Brandy Huntley, Liz Vasquez, Sharon Jones. I'm not doing shoeies. That's never ever happening. That's disgusting. You know, that's where you'd pour a beer into your shoe and drink it. I'm not doing that. It's not happening.
Why would you do that?
People in Australia or somewhere else like to do that. I think it's Australia.
That's something you do in the 10th grade that you challenge somebody to do. Yeah.
Or
grow up, Australia.
Play fucking rugby. Megan McDermott, Cody Leversey. I said that in Detroit. Peyton Meadows. Thomas Smith is listening while baking. Jonathan Phipps, Janice Hill, Polivas Bessafias, Bass Vicious. What a cool name. Madison Doughton, Carrie Jervis, Stephanie Seeloff, Justin Klein, Ashley Lundler, Levi Wiley, Lindsay Etherton maybe, Cavi J, Joanna Cacacho Krant, Jessica with no last name, Shaylee Napolsky, Jennifer Gorman, Patricia Stone, Aaron Blue, Stephen Silsby, Dee Dee McMillan, Matt Fields, Brandy with no last name, Holly Davidson, Andrew Wright, Lee Wyatt, Brian B, Tiana Harms, Williams, Maddie Wooliver, Max Power, Adam Clark, Devin Crook, Diane Parnell, Chase Quinn, Tuesday Johnson, Caitlin Rose, Nick Howard, Zach Macon, Lauren Jones, Nicole Gardano, Leanne Searcy, Lacey K, Isaac McCalla, Amy Cuomo, Teresa with no last name, Lacey Lee, Megan Shirley, Laura Swope, Samantha Kennedy, Jonathan Bennett, Virginia Lumsden, Nando Soto, Blake Field. Nope, that's Blake Banfield. God damn it, Jack
even a hard
Mehoff.
one.
Are you proud of yourself with Jack Mehoff? Really?
Thanks,
you
Bart
dug
Simpson.
that deep.
Thanks for the money. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
Kim
you can put
Lowry,
what you want, but
Zach Jordan, Hotbod Kev. Come on, Kevin. Teodoro or Urias, Matthew
Big Papa
Thompson.
Kevin, Pump.
Big Papa Pump Kev. Alex Parker, Wesley Nobles, Iris Woody, Raina Speaks, Rachel Young, Kayla Fitzsimmons, Wendy Nathan, Ramona Jorgensen, Ashley Breyer, Maureen Corcoran, Stacy Kraut, Dover Girl, Destiny Pearson, Candace Haley, Felicia O'Neill, Rebecca Coxon, Blake Starker, Shay Rennie, Kate Quigg, Atlas OT. Oh, no, that's double O. Courtney Harrison, Macy Procell, Carson Stout, Brooke Noel, Brandy Huntley, Casey Locke, Francis Brown, Melinda Hardy, Ashley Dale, Anissa Mitchell, Jake Young Johnson, Jack Young. What is that? Jake Young, I don't know. Rhonda O'Quinn, Sarah Humble, Heather Watts, Emily Fabian, Carolyn Petrorius, Mac Bryant, Tenacious Warden, Al Schmitz, Chantel with no last name, Victoria Allen, Chris Sarr, Garrett Joseph, Eileen Oaks, Nathaniel Ramos, Kara Mia, Michael Dixon, Adam Skelton, Callie Grant, Agnes Zakowitz, Todd DeFore, Spider Dan, Nicole Moreno, Bobby McGew, Shelby Fairchalk, Mary Elizabeth Hawkins, Joe Vetito, Matine Hill, Rowena Hill, Amanda Stout, John Patreon, Howie with no last name, Nicole with no last name, Sarah Ogden, Austin with no last name, Jamie Ray Parker, Alex Schumann, Tanya Osborne McKenzie, Jennifer B., Dottie Sloan, Colleen LeClaire, Michelle Arachichi, Franklin, Stacy Goodlin, Cassandra Coelho, Matthew Nelson, Matthew Beal, Jeanette with no last name, Ryan Pasica, Mandy Hansen, Randy Myers, probably not, Dale Oren, Monica Siana Vey, Jessica Higgins, Stacy Helsing, Charla Mack, Michelle Sinisi, Douglas Robertson, Jacob with no last name, Kyle Mintz, Dan Davis, Esther Chapman, Jamie McDougall, Dimitri with no last name, Ramiro Raposo, Steve with no last name, Donnie King, Gina Marion, Yvonne Kelly Schiller, Christy Cates, Ben Adler, Mark Summers, probably not that guy, right? Was that guy from Double Trouble?
Double Dare?
Double Dare.
Double Dare.
Melissa Carey, Glenn Ray, Courtney Johnston, Christopher DeCorte, Rob Tassar, Tina Gardner, Caitlin Kearns, Stephanie Fields, Lindsay Pohar, Grammy Pammy, Emily Norman, Brittany Bird, Ashley Towles, Jennifer MF and Haya, Susanna, Susan Ventura, Kyle and Charlotte, Jamie Fraser, and all of our patrons. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for all that you do for us and continue to do for us. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. If you want to follow us on social media, very easy. Go to shutupandgivememurder.com. There's links. Follow us there. You can find us. Do that. 3 more left, everybody.
Yeah.
And by the way, next week, too, because we're going to announce it on Small Town Murder, and then we'll talk about it on Crime and Sports. We'll tell you what the new show's going to be.
Hey.
We'll talk all about that. We're very, very excited, so we cannot fucking wait. Hopefully, you'll all be on board, too. Yeah. Thank you so much. We can't wait. Live from the Crime and Sports Studios. We will see you next week.
Bye.
If you like Crime and Sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.